Chapter 148. Song-Chi's face was cold as he walked out with his sword. If you want to fight, I'll accompany you. On the side, Tong Lan stood out, spiritual power surging in his body as he stared ahead. You. Song-Chi was disdainful. Just a loser. I did lose to you last time, but this time you can try. Tong Lan's expression was cold, without a trace of retreat. Forget it, let me do it. Lin Xian's voice was flat, without joy or sorrow. Brother Lin, don't be rash. He's a martial artist in the middle stage of the third layer of the spiritual ocean tier. Tong Lan reminded. Don't worry. Lin Xian patted his shoulder, then turned to look at Song-Chi. If I defeat you, those people won't stop me. Song-Chi sneered. As long as you can defeat me, they naturally won't make a move. As long as Lin Xian dared to accept the challenge, he had the confidence to kill him. As a martial artist in the middle stage of the third layer of the spiritual ocean tier, he still had this bit of confidence. Lin Xian flipped his palm and took out the crimson flame sword, the presence on his body gradually becoming fierce. Middle stage of the third layer of the spiritual ocean tier, far stronger than Zheng Jun. Lin Xian's expression became serious. However, he wasn't afraid. Now that he had the great dragon sword seal, his strength went up a level. Moreover, just a few days ago, his cultivation reached the second layer of the spiritual ocean tier. Let me try to see what level my strength has reached. Lin Xian's eyes were full of fighting spirit. Reckless. Song-Chi is a martial artist in the top 100 of the hidden dragon role. A brat in the second layer of the spiritual ocean tier dares to make a move. Brat from Cloud State. Let me show you what sword art is. Song-Chi pulled out the treasured sword at his waist. The sword light was like the moon, hazy. Good sword. Lin Xian praised. You're about to die and still have the mood to care about the sword. What an idiot. The people on the other side mocked again. Lin Xian ignored them and stared at Song-Chi. He wanted to see how different the geniuses from other states were. Moonblade. Song-Chi used a killing move right from the start. His sword chi was like moonlight, incomparably bright. Not good, it's actually the Cyan Moon sword technique. Tong Lan was shocked. He had lost to this sword technique. Song-Chi is so shameless. His cultivation is so high, yet he still uses this kind of sword art. He's obviously bullying others. Tong Yu said angrily. Although Song-Chi is arrogant, he is not weak. I wonder if little brother Lin can deal with him, Tong Lan said worriedly. On the other side, the Tsong family's disciples had leisurely expressions. He actually used the Cyan Moon sword technique to deal with this kid. Isn't he making a mountain out of a molehill? I don't care what sword technique he is using. Since he dared to injure a disciple of the Tsong family, he must atone for his crimes with his death. In the field, the green sword chi drew an arc in the air like a crescent moon, hazy and illusory. Lin Xian thrust it out with his sword. Sword chi gushed out and collided with the crescent sword chi. Chi. There was no rumbling sound, but instead like a balloon leaking air. The half-moon sword chi continued to shrink and finally disappeared in the air. What? The few of them widened their eyes in disbelief, especially Song-Chi, whose expression was filled with astonishment. The Cyan Moon sword technique seemed hazy, but the power of the sword chi was extremely strong. Normally, after learning the Cyan Moon sword technique, defeating opponents of the same level would not be a problem. However, such a powerful sword technique was ineffective in front of Lin Xian. What's going on? The Tong family's disciples were also at a loss. Tong Lan's eyes flickered as he said with uncertainty. Brother Lin, little brother Lin's sword seemed to have hit the flaw of the Cyan Moon sword technique. Flaw? Even spirit-ranked martial arts have flaws? The Tong family's disciples were confused. Normally, all martial arts have flaws. The higher the rank of the martial arts, the fewer flaws there are. Moreover, even if it is a spirit-ranked martial art, if the cultivator is not skilled enough, there will still be many flaws. Tong Lan's voice was not loud, but everyone present was a Spirit Sea Realm martial artist, so they all heard it clearly. Song-Chi's face darkened. He did not believe that Lin Xian could find the flaw in his sword technique. Guessing, it must be guessing. How could a martial artist from a trashy place like the Cloud State have such eyesight? Song-Chi did not believe it. He leaped up and attacked first. Shua! 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 Sword chi danced like moonlight, illuminating the earth. Song Qi's every sword attack was aimed at Lin Xian's vital points. It was extremely powerful and extremely fast. Lin Xian used the phantom thunder steps and dodged continuously. Qi. Song Qi's sword released an arc of sword light and slashed at Lin Xian, cutting him in half at the waist. Whoosh! The figure that was cut in half disappeared, leaving behind only a golden arc of lightning. It's an illusion. Tong Lan and the others were alarmed. Could not be helped. The illusion created by Lin Xian was too real. If one did not look carefully, they would not be able to tell. A guy who only knows how to run. If you have the guts, take my attack head-on. Song Qi yelled in anger. Although his sword technique was powerful, he could not catch Lin Xian. This made him feel like he was going crazy. Lin Xian stopped in his tracks with a smile on his face. He had already observed the Cyan Moon sword technique, and could barely use it. Of course, there were still some killing moves that he did not know yet. As long as he comprehended more and used the Great Dragon Sword Seal to modify it, he would be able to use the Cyan Moon sword technique. This was the real reason why he did not make a move. Alright, the game is over. Lin Xian's expression changed and the aura on his body became fierce. Wind-splitting form. The air in front of him was sucked out and the space seemed to be torn apart. There was an invisible force tearing at Song Qi's body. What is this? Song Qi's expression changed greatly. The spiritual power on his body surged and quickly formed a spiritual power armor. A cyan armor with a bright moon carved on it formed and appeared on Song Qi's body. This was an armor condensed from spiritual power. The higher the cultivation, the stronger the defense. Ka! Ka! The sword light flashed and two cracks appeared on the spiritual power armor in front of his chest. Chi! Song Qi was shocked and kept retreating. At the same time, the spiritual power on his body surged and quickly repaired the armor. Whoosh! He retreated to the back and kept panting. Damn, this kid is too weird. What kind of sword technique is this? There was a trace of fear in Song Qi's heart. He had never seen such a sword technique. He did not even see the trajectory of Lin Xian's long sword. On the opposite side, Lin Xian was also slightly stunned. It didn't split? He used half of his strength in this attack. A normal martial artist in the third layer of the spiritual ocean realm would have been injured. Worthy of being a genius in the top 100 of the hidden dragon list. Lin Xian said in a low voice. Song Qi's strength was somewhat out of Lin Xian's expectation. Of course, that was all. Swish, swish, swish. Lin Xian's body swayed and at the same time, he kept waving the long sword in his hand. Every strike landed on Song Qi's body. Pung! 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 The spiritual power armor on Song Qi's body kept changing shape and was about to shatter. Full moon dance chop. Song Qi was both shocked and angry. He swept his long sword and cyan sword chi flew out like a full moon. The circular sword chi circled around and spread out. The disciples of the Tong family and the Tsong family kept retreating. This terrifying sword light shocked them. Lin Xian was the closest and was the first to bear the brunt of the attack. The sharp sword light slashed at his waist. Wind thunder chop. His eyes flashed and the purple spirit pupil quickly and accurately found the flaw. Then he slashed at the flaw again. Ka! Chapter 149. Lin Xian's sword slashed at the flaw of Song Qi's sword move, causing the full moon sword chi to break. Pung! The sword light flashed and quickly slashed at the armor. Chi golden electric arcs jumped and reflected on Song Qi's face. Song Qi's armor was cut in half and was about to be scratched by the sword light. At that moment, the speed of Lin Xian's sword slowed down and finally stopped within the spirit power armor. The Tsong family disciples were relieved. That scared me to death. This sword art is too terrifying. What's the use of a good sword art? If your cultivation is too low, you can't break Song Qi's defense. Song Qi's expression changed and finally turned into a hideous smile. Haha, you can't even break through my defensive barrier. Go to hell. He swung his sword and stabbed at Lin Xian's left rib. Oh no! It's dangerous! Tong Lan exclaimed. Song Qi's spirit energy was too strong. Lin Xian slapped out with his left hand and 3 mountain shadows appeared, clashing with Song Qi's sword. The sword intent in his body surged and exploded in an instant. Xiao! A cold light flashed and disappeared in a flash. The armor on Songqi's chest was shattered, and he flew out with a terrifying sword mark on his chest. What was that? What a terrifying feeling. What kind of power was that? Everyone was confused and looked at Lin Xian in horror. Brother Qi. The Zong family disciples rushed forward and saved Songqi. They looked at Lin Xian with fear. Two of the Zong family's outstanding disciples were injured by this young man. And this young man was only at the second sky of the spiritual ocean realm. No one would believe this, but it really happened in front of their eyes. Kid, what's your name? Songqi covered his wound and said with hatred. Cloud Prefecture Lin Xian. Lin Xian, I'll remember it. Let's go. Songqi swallowed a pill and wrapped his wound with spirit energy before leaving with the help of the others. Brother Lin, you're so cool. Tong Ye's eyes sparkled. To the side, Tong Lan also cupped his hands together and said, Brother Lin, I never imagined that your swordsmanship would be so superb. Looks like the cloud plane isn't like the rumors. Lin Xian smiled and left the mountain with the others. After Lin Xian and the others left, the originally quiet forest once again became restless. A green-haired man came to the entrance of the cave. He sensed the aura in the surroundings and revealed an evil smile. His body flashed and disappeared into the air. Guangning City was a big city in Qingzhou. It was far more developed than the cities in Yunzhou. There were all kinds of martial arts instruments. Not only that, but there were also array masters, pill masters, and many other senior experts. Lin Xian was moved. Maybe he could find a suitable treasured sword here. He planned to settle down and go to the Myriad Treasure Tower to take a look. The Tong family was also a big family in Guangning City. They occupied a part of the city and had a row of majestic palaces. Uncle Chung, we're back. Tong Yu saw a gray-robed old man and ran over happily. Look, what is this? She excitedly took out the black flower. Ink spirit flower. The gray-robed old man called Uncle Chung was surprised. You guys sneaked into the forest. Are you injured? No, thanks to Brother Lin. Tong Yu shook the gray-robed old man's arm and said, Brother Lin? The gray-robed old man lifted his head and looked at Lin Xian. Lin Xian's heart skipped a beat. All the muscles in his body tightened. He had a feeling that he was seen through. This old man is terrifying. Lin Xian was fearful. In his mind, the great dragon sword seal vibrated and released a force to eliminate the palpitating feeling. The gray-robed old man was also surprised. He had a high cultivation level and had used a secret technique to check on Lin Xian. He did not expect to find nothing. Interesting young man. The gray-robed old man looked at Lin Xian a few more times. Greetings, uncle. Lin Xian cupped his hands and greeted. On the side, Tong Lan said to the gray-robed old man, Uncle Chung, this young hero Lin is from the Cloud region. He passed by the forest and saved us. Cloud region? The gray-robed old man had a trace of vigilance in his eyes, but he did not show it. Thank you for your help. Lan bring young hero Lin to rest. Tong Lan nodded. Brother Lin, this way please. With that, he brought Lin Xian to the other side. Tong Lan brought Lin Xian to an exquisite courtyard. After chatting for a while, they left. Lin Xian entered the room and used his soul power to observe carefully. Only then did he feel relieved. He had to be careful when he was outside. Moreover, he saw a trace of vigilance in the gray-robed old man's eyes. This made him shiver. After resting for a while, Lin Xian took out a pouch. He was slightly dazed. He could still hear that moving voice in his ears. Sky Martial Region, Flying Sky Pavilion. Lin Xian realized that he knew too little about this world. At least he had never heard of the Sky Martial Region. Little Xianzi, don't think about it. Wine Lord's voice sounded. With your current strength, you can't go to the Sky Martial Region. Wait until you're stronger. Wine Lord, where is the Sky Martial Region? Is it very far? Lin Xian did not give up. The Xia country you live in belongs to the Tiannan region, located at the border of the continent. The Sky Martial region is at the center of the continent. Its strength far surpasses the Tiannan region. That little girl's identity is probably not ordinary. If you want to find her, you have to at least reach the spirit realm. The world is so big. Lin Xian sighed. Right now, he really felt like a frog at the bottom of a well. After entering the ancestral land, I must go out and train. Lin Xian made a decision. It's not that I want to discourage you, but with your current strength and foundation, you can dominate the Xia country in a few years. But once you leave the Xia country, you're nothing. Wine Lord said mercilessly. Lin Xian was stunned. He was unconvinced. Is there such a big difference? He now had the Wind Emperor's sword, the Great Dragon Sword seal, and even comprehended sword intent. He was full of confidence. Of course, he did not agree with Wine Lord's words. Think about that little girl. She's about the same age as you and has already entered the spirit realm. If it wasn't for the suppression of cultivation in the trial by blood and fire, you kids wouldn't even be able to lift a finger of hers. Wine Lord snorted. Lin Xian calmed down. Wine Lord was right. In terms of cultivation, he was far from Shun Jingqiu. Could it be that everyone in the Sky Martial region was so abnormal? He realized that he still had a long way to go. If you want to become strong, other than talent, you also need resources. Otherwise, by the time you reach the spirit realm, she would have already entered a higher realm. I want to become strong. Lin Xian did not want to continue like this. He wanted to stand at the peak of the world and enjoy the beautiful scenery. You can't become strong just by shouting. I've said it before. With your current foundation, you can only dominate the Xia country in a few years. Then what should I do? Lin Xian asked. The Great Dragon Sword can let you become strong and fulfill your dreams. Wine Lord said. Lin Xian's eyes flashed. He remembered the legend of the Great Dragon Sword. The Great Dragon Sword is not so much a divine sword. It's more like an offensive sacred art. With the Great Dragon Sword, you will have the chance to become the strongest in the world. Chapter 150. But where is the Great Dragon Sword? Lin Xian was puzzled. There's no rush. As long as you have the heart, well, go look for it after your family's matter is settled. Wine Lord smiled mysteriously. Lin Xian calmed down. He knew that this matter couldn't be rushed and had to be taken one step at a time. Don't worry. I'll definitely find the Great Dragon Sword. Lin Xian said firmly. Wine Lord smiled with satisfaction. Now focus on increasing your strength. Your soul power should be enough to learn inscriptions. Inscriptions. Lin Xian was overjoyed. He had seen the power of inscriptions. Whether it was the spirit wine or the bronze gloves, they all had extraordinary effects. First, form the soul seal. Wine Lord said. You have the Great Dragon Sword seal, so it should be easier for you to form it. Arrange the room. You can't be disturbed during the process. Following Wine Lord's instructions, Lin Xian took out the crimson flame sword and stabbed it into the ground. Activate the second rune. Wine Lord instructed. Lin Xian found the second rune and his soul power slowly flowed out. The first rune can produce 10 times the gravity. What effect does the second rune have? He was looking forward to it. Wang. The rune was activated and a ring of light appeared and quickly spread out. The dense ripples formed a sword-shaped pattern that hit on the ground and disappeared. Lin Xian felt an indescribable power protecting him, preventing him from being disturbed. Empty your mind and condense your soul power according to the method I told you. Wine Lord said in a deep voice. Lin Xian closed his eyes and began to condense his first soul seal outside in the Tong family. Uncle Cheng told the elders of the clan about the ink spirit flower. When they heard about it, they were all very excited. With the ink spirit flower and the things we prepared, Master Hong will make a move, right? As long as he makes a move, Chun Er's injuries will definitely be healed. Let's start the preparations. Tong family's patriarch said in a deep voice. While the elders were discussing, Tong Lan, Tong Yu, and the rest of the younger generation were also cheering. Big brother Chen's injuries will definitely be healed. Tong Yu waved her little fist. That's right. If brother Chun wasn't injured, I'm afraid he would already be in the top 50 of the hidden dragon roll. Tong Lan's eyes revealed a trace of excitement. Tong Chun was the #1 genius of the Tong family. He was 20 years old and ranked 68th on the hidden dragon rank. He had a bright future ahead of him. But half a year ago, this genius of the Tong clan was assassinated. Not only was he heavily injured and almost died, he was also poisoned. This poison was extremely overbearing. The elders of the Tong clan could only stabilize the poison and were unable to completely remove it. And the one who had this ability was Master Hong in the city. Master Hong was a level 1 inscription master, and the pills he refined were exceptionally precious. It could be said that they were hard to find even with money. Furthermore, the conditions for him to make a move were extremely harsh. Now, the Tong family finally gathered everything and could invite Grandmaster Hong. Just as everyone was celebrating, a group of uninvited guests came to the Tong residence. "Humph! Tong Lon and that Lin brat. Get the hell out here." A loud roar reverberated through half of the Tong residence. One could imagine how strong the spiritual power of the people who came was. "Who's that?" Many disciples of the Tong clan were shocked and ran outside. The Tong clan was considered a powerful force in Guangning City. Usually, no one would come to cause trouble. Now this clamor had angered the Tong clan. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Many figures ran out. Most of them were from the younger generation. Tong Lon and Tong Yu also followed the crowd. Bang! With a loud sound, a disciple of the Tong clan retreated with a pale face. What happened? Tong Lon supported the disciple who was retreating. "Brother Lon, you're finally here. The Tsong clan is here to cause trouble." A group of disciples of the Tong clan chattered furiously. It turned out that after they came out, they realized that the people who were causing trouble were the disciples of the Tsong clan. The two clans were not on good terms, so they fought as soon as they met. But this time the Tsong clan had sent all their elites. Ordinary disciples could not deal with them. "Tong Lon, you're finally here. Where's that brat?" The people of the Tsong clan were extremely arrogant. "Hand over Lin and the ink spirit flower, and this matter will be over. Otherwise, the Tong clan will be in trouble." "Song Yuan, I'm afraid you're not qualified," Tong Lon said coldly. "Is that so? What if I'm included?" A cold-looking young man walked out from the group of disciples of the Tsong clan. He looked at the people of the Tong clan casually. "Song Lei, it's you." Tong Lan's pupils shrank. There was a hint of seriousness in his voice. Song Lei was also a martial artist in the top 100 of the Hidden Dragon role. His ranking was even higher than Song Qi's. He was ranked 74th. It could be said that he was the second most powerful person in the Tsong clan. In terms of the younger generation, the strength of the Qing prefecture was much higher than the Yun prefecture. For example, Zhang Jun and the others who were ranked at the top of the Yun prefecture were not strong enough. After all, Zhang Jun was only ranked in the 90s. He was far from being a match for Tsong Lei and Tong Lon. "Tong Lon, hand him over." "You're not my match," Song Lei said playfully. "Brother Lin is our savior. If you want him, you'll have to go through me first." Tong Lon unsheathed his sword and his aura became fierce. "Haha! Sword force? It's useless against me." Song Lei was very powerful. He stomped his feet and the ground cracked. His aura erupted like a volcano and blue electric arcs wrapped around his body. "In terms of cultivation, you're not my match. In terms of aura, my Thunder Fist force is much stronger than your sword force. What are you going to use to fight me?" "Cut the crap." Tong Lan's face darkened as he stabbed out with his sword. The sword chi was like a rainbow as it slashed towards Song Lei. "Thunder Tyrant Fist." Song Lei shouted. The blue electric arcs on his body jumped and surged to his fist. He threw out a punch that was like thunder. The electric arcs flashed and flowed in all directions. Ka! Ka! The sword chi that was dozens of feet long was shattered by the punch. The scene was shocking and frightening. Traceless flowing water. Tong Lon was not angry that his attack did not hit. His sword swung and his sword technique changed. The sword shadows were continuous and covered half the sky. It was like a surging river, mighty and endless. "Break!" Song Lei sneered and threw out a punch. The sword radiance flashed and formed a light screen in the sky. It was like a waterfall that hung upside down and blocked the Thunder Fist. Thunder Blast! The blue electric arcs on his fist exploded and collided with the light screen, creating thousands of ripples. Rumble! A terrifying aura spread out like water waves. Everyone retreated. Some of the weaker disciples turned pale and felt uncomfortable. Whoosh! Tong Lon landed on the ground and retreated a dozen steps before she could stabilize her body. On the opposite side, Song Lei stood proudly with disdain on his face. "Tong Lon, I've already given you enough face. If you don't hand him over, don't blame me for being rude." The disciples of the Tsang family clamored while the Tong family was silent. They were upset that Tong Lan had lost. In the distance, a group of elders looked outside the door and sighed. Sigh, Tong Lan is still lacking. If only Tong Chun was here. The Tsang family would not dare to be so presumptuous. Tong Chen's injury is definitely related to the Tsang family. After Chun recovers, we'll settle the score with them. An elder snorted. What's with the Lin family that they mentioned? The Tong family head asked. Tong Lan and the others met him in the forest. I heard that he saved Tong Lan and the others, Uncle Chang said respectfully. Chapter 151. Tell me in detail, the Tong family head said in a low voice. Uncle Chang told them everything he knew. When the elders heard that the Tsang family disciple made a move, they were all furious. You're saying that this youth called Lin Xian not only killed a tier 4 beast, but also heavily injured Song Ji and Song Qi? He's really in the second layer of the spiritual ocean tier? Impossible. How could such a genius appear in a backward place like Cloud Prefecture? The elders obviously didn't believe it, because this wasn't something a martial artist in the second layer of the spiritual ocean tier could do. Don't jump to conclusions, the Tong family head said in a low voice. Although he was born in Cloud Prefecture, he might have a powerful master. Master? What kind of master could there be in Cloud Prefecture? Some elders were disdainful. He might not be from Cloud Prefecture, the Tong family head said. Some masters like to wander around, so it's not impossible for them to go to Cloud Prefecture. Ask Lin Xian to come out, the Tong family head said. Uncle Cheng's body flashed, turning into a ray of light and dashing towards the inner court. The elders stood where they were, and many of them snorted inwardly. I'd like to see what kind of youth could boast to be so powerful. With Uncle Cheng's skills, he arrived at Lin Xian's residence in a short time. Uncle Cheng was surprised as he felt a special presence in the room. He took a few steps forward and pushed the door open, but found that another force blocked him. Array. Uncle Cheng was even more surprised. He didn't expect a martial artist in the second layer of the spiritual ocean tier to have such a brilliant array. Could he really have a master behind him? Uncle Cheng hesitated, not daring to make a move. With a defensive array, the person inside must be cultivating. If he made a move, he might disturb Lin Xian and cause him to suffer a backlash. If it was before, the backlash would be nothing. In front of the family's crisis, the sacrifice of a martial artist in the second layer of the spiritual ocean tier was nothing. However, there might be an old monster behind Lin Xian, and if he offended him, it might bring great danger to the family. This kind of danger should be left to the Tsang family. Uncle Cheng retreated, planning to leave. Creak. Just as he was about to leave, the door actually opened. Young hero Lin. Uncle Cheng shouted in shock as he turned around. Lin Xian cupped his hands and smiled. He had just completed the soul seal when he sensed Uncle Cheng's presence. Thus he walked out. May I know why Senior is looking for me? Lin Xian asked. Uncle Cheng looked at the young man in front of him and exclaimed in his heart. He could no longer see through this young man. Just yesterday he had been able to sense Lin Xian's cultivation and aura through a secret technique, but now he couldn't detect any information. Lin Xian sensed Uncle Cheng's probing and smiled faintly, not saying anything. After condensing the soul seal, his soul power had improved again. He had reached the level of a first-grade inscription master. As long as he was willing, ordinary people would not be able to see any information about him. Unless the other party also cultivated soul force, or if the other party's cultivation level was far higher than his, they would not be able to see it. With a thought, Lin Xian displayed the cultivation of the second layer of the spiritual ocean tier. Sensing the change in Lin Xian's body, Uncle Cheng took a deep breath and said, "The family head invites you over." Me? Lin Xian was slightly dazed. "It's about the Tsang family," Uncle Cheng explained. Lin Xian nodded. He followed behind Uncle Cheng and used his soul power to scan the surroundings. When he was halfway there, he sensed something outside the door. Instantly, his expression changed. Uncle Cheng, Tong Lan and the others are in danger. After Lin Xian said this, his body flashed and he quickly left. Sea of Soul Realm martial artists didn't cultivate soul power at all, unless they were people like Lin Xian who cultivated inscriptions. After entering the three spirit realms, martial artists would start to cultivate soul force. But without special methods, their soul force wouldn't be especially powerful. Moreover, as Lin Xian's cultivation and vision widened, he had a deeper understanding of martial artists. For example, although Uncle Cheng's aura was powerful, he was still in the spiritual ocean tier and hadn't entered the three spirit realms. Even Black Sky Sect had many elders who hadn't entered the three spirit realms. Only a small number of people had entered the three spirit realms. Uncle Cheng couldn't sense the situation outside, so he could only follow behind Lin Xian. Outside the Tong family, Tong Lan retreated again with blood dripping from the corner of his mouth. Haha. You're really trash. Song Lei laughed. No one in your Tong family can fight. Humph, if Brother Chun was here you wouldn't be able to do this. Tong Yu supported Tong Lan and said angrily. Tong Chun? He's just a poison trash. Song Lei laughed maniacally. Even if he's fine now, he's no match for my brother. Nonsense. Tong Yu shouted. If Brother Chun wasn't injured, your brother would definitely be looking for his teeth on the ground. You're courting death. Song Lei was furious and punched out. His brother Song Bao and Tong Chun were known as the two heroes of Guangning City. But Tong Chun was always better than his brother. Ever since Tong Chun was injured, his brother's cultivation improved by leaps and bounds, and he became the #1 person among the younger generation in Guangning City. And now, the Tong family used that sickly person to suppress his brother. How could he not be angry? Whoosh! This punch was accompanied by berserk lightning as it came crashing down with a loud bang. Tong Ye's cultivation was at the second level of the spiritual sea realm, so she couldn't resist it at all. Tong Lan, who was at the side, suffered internal injuries and probably couldn't take this violent punch. The disciples of the Tsong family crossed their arms and sneered, while the disciples of the Tong family were anxious. Some of the weaker ones even covered their eyes. In the distance, the elders of the Tong family who were watching secretly changed their expressions. Some of them couldn't help but want to attack. At this moment, a golden light appeared in front of everyone and rushed towards the thunder and lightning fist. Boom! With a loud bang, thunder and lightning surged out and crackled. The blue energy swept out in all directions at a speed visible to the naked eye. Everywhere it passed, it was scorched black. Crackle! Crackle! Tong Yu covered her mouth with a shocked expression. Tong Lan, who was at the side, was pressed down by a hand. He didn't need to attack because someone was standing in front of him. Brother Lin, Brother Lin! Tong Lan cried out in surprise. The disciples of the Tong family opened their eyes, while the disciples of the Tsong family in the distance were in a mess. Song Lei's pupils contracted. The power of his punch was broken, and the thunder and lightning didn't have any effect at all. This was something that had never happened since he started cultivating. In front of him, a hand cut his wrist, and his fist power all landed on the ground beside him. There was a big black hole there and the bottom couldn't be seen. Song Lei raised his head and saw a handsome young man looking at him with a faint smile. Who are you? Song Lei gritted his teeth and asked. Lin Xian. The voice was very calm. What? You're Lin Xian. Song Lei was shocked. He looked at the young man in front of him in disbelief. In his opinion, someone who could defeat Song Qi and the others must be an older youth. However, the person in front of him was very young and his cultivation. Chapter 152. Lin Xian's appearance shocked everyone, especially the Tsong family disciples, who were all dumbfounded. Song Lei felt Lin Xian's cultivation, and a ball of anger ignited in his heart. When did the second layer of the spiritual ocean tier become so powerful? Or did this kid hide his cultivation? He didn't know, but he couldn't lose to a martial artist in the second layer of the spiritual ocean tier. If that was the case, he wouldn't be able to stay in Guangning City anymore. Thunder explosion. Song Lei suddenly attacked, and powerful thunder surged out of his body, covering everything around him. Rumble, within 3 zhang, it turned into a sea of thunder. Luckily, the other disciples ran fast, or else they would be in trouble. Tong Yu and Tong Lan were pushed out by Lin Xian with spiritual power and landed far away. Crack! Blue thunder instantly covered Lin Xian and Song Lei. How could they not die after being pierced by this thunder? Seeing this, the Tsong family disciples breathed a sigh of relief and became arrogant again. In the sea of thunder, Song Lei was bathed in thunder and lightning, like a thunder god. He looked down at Lin Xian and said with disdain, "The defense of the second layer of the spiritual ocean tier can't block my sea of thunder." Die! The thunder and lightning exploded, forming a terrifying ball of energy. The spiritual power of a normal martial artist in the second layer of the spiritual ocean tier couldn't form a thick spiritual power armor. But Lin Xian cultivated the art of longevity, and the spiritual power in his body was purer than that of a martial artist in the second layer of the spiritual ocean tier. He was even stronger than a normal martial artist in the third layer of the spiritual ocean tier. This was the benefit of a high-level cultivation method, and this benefit would become more obvious as the cultivation increased. On the other hand, Lin Xian had golden thunder and lightning in his body, which was of a higher quality than the blue thunder. Playing with thunder in front of him was like showing off in front of an expert. Everyone looked at the sea of thunder nervously. They couldn't go forward with such terrifying energy. They could only wait anxiously. Among them, the most anxious were Tong Yu and Tong Lan. Lin Xian had saved them more than once, and they couldn't repay this kindness, so they could only pray secretly. In the distance, the elder of the Tong family looked at the blue sea of thunder and frowned. "This kind of power, I'm afraid that kid can't block it." Most of these elders were experts at the peak of the spiritual ocean tier, and some of them were even half-step harmonious spirit. However, only the head of the Tong family had reached the harmonious spirit realm. His eyes were like two divine gods' eyes, as if they could see through everything. "No, he's still alive," the head of the Tong clan said in a deep voice. "What?" The elders were shocked. They looked into the distance in disbelief. However, they hadn't reached the harmonious spirit realm, so they couldn't see what was going on inside. After a while, the sea disappeared. Shianis, there was a chi. There was a of s in, of course. S of a of thes. He was like s screaming, like a cat of the of that s to the of course to us and of course Lin Xian, on the other hand, stood there with a smile on his face, as if he had never experienced the sea of lightning. That's lightning, one of the most powerful forces. The disciples of the Tsang family felt dizzy. They couldn't stand still. Fine, it's fine since he's the one who released the lightning. But that kid's fine too, we can't accept it. Ghost, it's really fucking ghost. The Tong family exclaimed. The elders looked at each other, they were confused, they looked at the family. Only the family knew what had happened. The head of the Tong family took a deep breath and said slowly, "He's also a lightning element warrior, and the quality of his lightning is higher than Tsang Lei." Hiss! All the elders sucked in a breath of cold air. Who was Tsang Lei? He was the number 2 of the younger generation of the Tsang family, the genius of Guangning City. Not only was his cultivation base strong, but he also had the powerful Tsang family behind him. As far as they knew, Tsang Lei was cultivating a spirit-grade martial art. A classic of the lightning element, the Thunder Tyrant Fist. There was only one martial art of this grade in the Tong family, and only the head of the family could cultivate it. One could imagine how precious it was. However, the kid Lin was able to suppress Tsang Lei. It was unbelievable. Impossible! Tsang Lei roared. He knew the power of the Thunder Tyrant Fist. However, the kid in front of him was fine. Thunderbolt Firmament. Blue lightning pierced through his body and condensed into a thunderbird. It spread its wings and rushed toward Lin Xian. Triple Mountain Suppressing Hand. Lin Xian struck out with both hands, and the shadow of a mountain appeared above his palms. The 2 palms overlapped, and 6 mountains appeared in the air. Above the mountains, there were golden lightning arcs that emitted a power that made people's hearts palpitate. Ung! The blue thunderbird saw the golden lightning and let out a trembling cry. Go! Lin Xian struck out with both palms, and it was as if a giant mountain was pressing down. Golden lightning! Tsang Lei almost bit his tongue. He felt the lightning in his body roaring and trembling. Bang! Bang! The blue thunderbird screamed and was shattered by the 6 mountains, turning into nothingness. Tsang Lei's face paled and he took a few steps back. He knew that he couldn't take Lin Xian away today. Lin Xian's lightning was of a higher grade than his. He couldn't accept it. I'll be at a disadvantage if I stay any longer. Tsang Lei's eyes flashed, and he made a prompt decision. Boy, I'll remember you. Well, fight another day. Tsang Lei snorted, then left with the Tsang family disciples. The Tong family disciples were a little dazed, not daring to believe the reality in front of their eyes. The Tsang family members came aggressively, but were chased away by a youth in the second layer of the spiritual ocean tier. This situation was like a dream too unreal. In the distance, the elders of the Tong family also sighed heavily. Clan leader Tong asked, "What do you think?" "Strong. Although his cultivation is low, his strength is super strong. He'll probably be rank 70 or so on the hidden dragon roll." "Not necessarily. He's only suppressing Tsang Lei with his lightning. His real strength is definitely not as strong as Tsang Lei's." Some elders disagreed. However, no matter what, Lin Xian's performance shocked them. "Brother Lin." Tong Lan walked over, clutching her chest. Her face was pale and she didn't know what to say. On the side, Tong Ye's face was red, unusually excited. "Big brother Lin, you're so strong." "Uncle Chang." Tong Lan turned around and saw the gray-robed old man walking over. "Young hero Lin, clan leader invites you," Uncle Chang said with a smile. "Senior, please." Lin Xian didn't put on airs. Instead, he was very humble, appearing very polite. Uncle Chang smiled and led the way in front. Lin Xian and the others followed behind. Lin Xian's expression was relaxed, and he walked with a smile. Suddenly, he felt a chill on his back, and all the muscles in his body tensed up. After cultivating the soul mark, his senses were very sensitive, far surpassing normal martial artists. But now, his whole body was stiff, as if he was in great danger, but he couldn't find the source of the danger. Big dragon sword mark rumbled in his mind, and a warm current instantly flowed through his body. Under his all-out probing, he finally found the source of the danger. Lin Xian subconsciously turned around and looked into the distance. Chapter 153. Lin Xian's gaze pierced through the crowd and looked behind him. In the corner, there was a green-haired man with a cold smile on his face. His eyes were glowing with a green light. Although Lin Xian had never seen this person before, he was very familiar with his aura. The green-haired man's aura was the same as the aura of the bronze coffin at the bottom of the blood-colored palace. Could it be that the person in the coffin is alive? Lin Xian's expression was uncertain. "Big brother Lin, what's wrong?" Tong Yu asked. "Nothing." Lin Xian regained his composure. When he turned around again, the green-haired man was gone. Suppressing his doubts, he followed the crowd into the Tong residence. There was a group of elders in front of him. Most of them were looking at him. "Greetings, elders." Lin Xian bowed. "The younger generation will surpass us in time. May I know where young hero Lin is from?" An elder asked. "Yun State's Black Heaven sect." Lin Xian replied. The elders looked at each other in disbelief, but they did not expose him. "Thank you for your help today, young hero Lin." Lin Xian chatted with the elders of the Tong family. He noticed that the elders were trying to find out his identity from time to time. However, Lin Xian insisted that he was a disciple of the Black Heaven sect, so they could not do anything about it. In the end, they could not get anything out of him, so they let Lin Xian go. Phew! Lin Xian returned to his room and heaved a sigh of relief. He knew that the Tong family wanted to establish a relationship with the mysterious master behind him. He did have a mysterious master, but that was his secret. He would not let anyone know about it even if he was beaten to death. However, this was not what he was worried about. What he was most worried about was the green-haired man. That greedy gaze made his hair stand. "Wine Lord, what is that?" Lin Xian asked. "Doesn't look like a living thing. The death aura on him is very strong. It's best if you don't fight him with your current strength." Lin Xian nodded and began to consolidate his strength. Especially since he had just condensed a soul seal, he was still not very familiar with it. "Your soul seal was formed with the Great Dragon Sword seal as the foundation. It has great potential and needs to be nurtured well," Wine Lord said slowly. "Let me teach you some simple inscriptions first." Lin Xian focused, carefully feeling the inscriptions that Wine Lord had taught him. After a while his soul surged. He gently lifted his finger and slowly put it down. A simple rune appeared in the air, and the surrounding spiritual energy rushed towards it. It was just 3 simple strokes, but they contained a mysterious power. Lin Xian practiced over and over again. Bright spots appeared in the air one after another, forming countless vortexes of spirit energy. In the end, he was finally able to draw it in one go. Although it was just 3 simple lines, they contained the profound principles of heaven and earth. Ordinary people could not draw it at all. This was an introductory practice for an inscription master. An ordinary inscription would take 1 or 2 months to successfully complete, but Lin Xian had only used a few hours to smoothly complete it. This kind of talent could be called abnormal. Lin Xian opened his eyes and slightly frowned. Using his soul force for such a long time made his head dizzy. Rubbing his forehead, Lin Xian took out a cup of spirit wine and slowly drank it. His soul force needed about an hour to fully recover. During this time, Lin Xian used it to practice the longevity art. A day quickly passed. The next day, Lin Xian pushed open the door and went out. He wanted to buy some herbs and begin to learn how to refine spirit wine. He also wanted to see if there were any good weapons. He had about 100 mid-grade spirit stones, 3 boxes of low-grade spirit stones, and a mystic-grade treasure knife. This amount of wealth was pitifully small. Fortunately, Lin Xian's early cultivation relied on the spirit wine refined by Wine Lord, so there was not much danger. However, as his cultivation increased, he would need more and more resources. Otherwise, he would definitely fall behind the disciples of the large sections. Once he learned how to refine spirit wine, he would be able to earn money. Lin Xian was not worried about the future. In fact, he was looking forward to it. He walked through the corridor with a leisurely expression. There seemed to be a lot of people in front of him. Is the Tsang family looking for trouble again? Lin Xian was puzzled. However, he soon discovered that it was not the case. A group of people were surrounding an old man and walking towards the inner court. Lin Xian had a curious look on his face. He had sensed a familiar soul ripple from the old man. Could it be an inscription master? His heart skipped a beat. He did not expect to see someone of the same profession so soon. It is indeed an inscription master, Wine Lord said. A peak first-grade inscription master like you is far from being comparable. Lin Xian rolled his eyes. I only learned it for 1 night. Lin Xian looked around and walked up. Uncle Cheng, he called out with a smile. So it's young hero Lin. Uncle Cheng turned to look at Lin Xian from behind the crowd. Who is that old senior? Lin Xian showed a curious expression. That is Master Hong, an inscription master, Uncle Cheng explained, but he did not say anything else. Inscription master. Lin Xian muttered. Uncle Cheng, oh, go take a walk outside. After bidding farewell to Uncle Cheng, Lin Xian left the Tong residence and walked along the street. Are there many types of inscription masters and inscription masters? Lin Xian asked Wine Lord through voice transmission. First, there were no differences. However, most people have limited energy and cannot master all of them. Thus, there are branches. They are generally divided into medicine, tools, and formations. Among them, medicine is the most developed and the system is the most complete. Lin Xian listened to Wine Lord's explanation as he walked quickly. He learned that inscription masters and inscription masters were the names of people who had condensed a soul seal. As for those who had not condensed a soul seal, they were called alchemists, blacksmiths, or artificers. Although there was only a difference of 1 word, the difference in status and strength between the two was like heaven and earth soon. He arrived at the bustling area of the city. Among them, the largest and most populated was the Tens of Thousands Treasure House. This was a very large business alliance that had business in every state of Xia country. Although it was expensive, it was reliable. Lin Xian paid 10 inferior grade spirit stones and walked in. The hall was dazzling with people coming and going. The atmosphere was very lively. Lin Xian began to buy herbs according to Wine Lord's list. He had just started cultivating and the herbs he needed were not very precious, so it was not troublesome to buy them. Soon he had collected all of them. What's this? Lin Xian saw an exquisite booklet on the cabinet and could not help but take a second look. Hidden Dragon Leaderboard. The 3 words inlaid in gold were flamboyant, and there was a faint fighting spirit. You can only see this after you buy it. A gentle voice sounded. Lin Xian looked up and saw a beautiful maid standing behind the cabinet. Give me 1. Lin Xian said. Okay, 50 inferior grade spirit stones. The maid said. Lin Xian was speechless. He did not expect a list of names to be so expensive. It was really unreasonable. He paid the spirit stones, picked up a book and slowly opened it. There were a total of 100 young talents recorded in it. There were some notes beside each name. The battle records and the martial artist's skills could be said to be very detailed. I did not expect someone to be able to collect such complete information. It's really not ordinary. Lin Xian praised. If what was written was true, then the person who wrote this book was really amazing. Chapter 154. Lin Xian indeed did not know. He shook his head and looked to the side. Not far away from him stood a few men and women. Judging from their attire, they should be disciples of a sect. Among them, a young lady had a graceful figure and a pretty face. However, there was a hint of arrogance in her expression. Sensing Lin Xian's gaze, the young lady lifted her chin and snorted. "What are you looking at? Have you never seen a beauty before?" Lin Xian sighed in his heart. The young lad's innate sense of superiority made him uncomfortable. "I really haven't seen a beauty," Lin Xian said plainly. "You." The young lady was furious. She glared at Lin Xian fiercely. This kid dared to say that she wasn't a beauty. If it wasn't for the fact that the 1,000 Treasure Tower forbade fighting, she would have beaten this despicable kid to the ground. "Kid, what are you saying? What's with that look?" The few people behind the young lady couldn't stand it anymore and shouted coldly. "Shut up!" One of the young men shouted. He took a step forward and cupped his fists. "Brother, please don't be offended. They haven't left the mountain much and are a little straightforward." This young man was cultured and elegant. He looked like a spring breeze, making it hard for one to dislike him. "It's fine." Lin Xian smiled. He wouldn't be bothered by such trivial matters. "We are disciples of the White Feather sect. My name is Wensu. How should I address you?" The young man smiled. Lin Xian, disciple of the Cloud State. Cloud State. The few disciples of the White Feather sect had a strange expression. The young lady among them sneered. "Tisk, just disciples of a first-grade sect." The 3 sects of the Cloud State were first-grade sects, which was slightly lower in Xia country. The White Feather sect was a second-grade sect of the Green State and was extremely powerful. When Su turned around and glared at the young lady, he then smiled apologetically. "So it's Brother Lin. Nice to meet you. I wonder what kind of existence the Divine Mysteries Pavilion is?" Lin Xian asked. The origin of the Divine Mysteries Pavilion is mysterious. However, everything they do is extremely accurate. Take the Hidden Dragon leaderboard for example. There were people who weren't convinced by the rankings and went to challenge them. The results proved that the rankings on the Hidden Dragon leaderboard were correct. So miraculous? Lin Xian was greatly surprised. "But you're losing out by buying this Hidden Dragon leaderboard now," Wensu said. "Why?" "On the 15th of every month, a new version of the Hidden Dragon ranking will be printed, and the rankings on it will also change. Today is the 13th. There will be new ones in 2 days." "Will the rankings change a lot?" Lin Xian casually flipped through the book. Of course I will." The girl at the back snorted. "Our senior brother one went from the 53rd place to the 47th place this month." Lin Xian didn't mind the girl's tone. Instead, he nodded slightly. It seemed like the competition for the rankings was very intense. He then looked at Lin Feng, who was ranked 5th. "I wonder if this fellow's ranking will change?" As if sensing the change in Lin Xian, Wensu said, "The change in the rankings this time should be quite big." It said that Lin Feng, ranked 5th, broke through again and reached the 6th celestial layer of spiritual ocean. A few days ago, he fought against Jin Lai Tian, ranked 3rd. But no one knows what the result is. The other change is Lung Yi Dao from the Snow-Seeking sect. He directly went from the 21st place to the 8th place. His strength is amazing. The Snow-Seeking sect can be said to have double happiness. Lin Xian slowly exhaled. It seemed that not only was he improving, but everyone was also improving. What else is there to celebrate in the Snow-Seeking sect? Lin Xian asked casually. He didn't think much about it. "You don't know?" They all looked strange. Lin Xian touched his nose. "I just came out of the mountains. The Snow-Seeking sect has been promoted to a 3rd-rank sect. They will hold a celebration next month. At that time, all the sects and families will go." 3rd-rank sect. Lin Xian's pupils shrank. 3rd-rank sects were already the most powerful forces in the Xia. They were backed by peerless masters in the spirit transformation realm. It could be said that no one dared to bully them. It seems that the Xiantian sect will also go to the Snow Province. Lin Xian thought. He originally wanted to go back to the Xiantian sect, but now it seemed that he only needed to go to the Snow Province. Maybe I will meet people from my family. Lin Xian sighed. As one of the top forces in the Xia, the Sword Pool Mansion would definitely send people there. I have to leave in advance. He wanted to go to the Snow Province to inquire about the news. When he was expelled from the Sword Pool Mansion, it was Lin Feng's idea. At that time, the situation was special. His grandfather was in seclusion, and his father was trapped in a dangerous place. Although there were other people in his family, without the two main forces, they couldn't compete with Lin Feng's family. I don't know how grandfather is. He was nervous. And father. With the improvement of Lin Xian's cultivation and vision, he increasingly felt that his father was not dead, and the answer to all of this should be in the ancestral land of the family. Before his father left, he had mentioned the ancestral land more than once and asked Lin Xian to go there. One more year. Lin Xian secretly clenched his fists. The ancestral land of the family would be opened in a year, and he had to go in. After saying goodbye to Wen Su, Lin Xian walked back. Brother Wen, he's just a country bumpkin. Why do you care about him? The arrogant girl said unhappily. You guys behave yourselves when you're outside. Wen Su lectured. This world is far more complicated than you can imagine. Some seemingly weak people could very well take your lives. Although Lin Xian's cultivation was only at the second level of the spiritual sea realm, Wen Su intuitively felt the horror of Lin Xian's body. This was something he couldn't explain, but this feeling had saved his life. However, the girl and the others behind him obviously didn't believe him. They all had disdainful smiles on their faces. He shook his head, sighed, and ignored them. When Lin Xian returned to the Tong Mansion, Master Hong had already left. However, the people in the Tong Mansion were obviously much happier. Many of them had smiles on their faces. Lin Xian secretly used his soul power to eavesdrop on other people's conversations and found out that the genius of the Tong Mansion was poisoned, but was now cured by Master Hong. So that's how it is. Lin Xian understood and returned to his room. When night fell, he took out the red flame sword and activated the array on it to seal the room. Then, he took out the herbs he bought during the day from his storage ring and spread them on the table. Okay, today I'll teach you how to make spirit wine. Wine Lord's voice sounded. Making spirit wine requires 3 types of inscriptions. The first is the purification inscription, the second is the fusion inscription, and the third is the refinement inscription. As long as you master these 3 types of inscriptions, you'll be able to make spirit wine. Wine Lord transmitted his voice. However, different types of spirit wine require different inscriptions. Now, I'll teach you the simplest type. Lin Xian followed Wine Lord's instructions and began to draw in the air. Glowing lines flowed out from Lin Xian's eyes. Gradually, a strange inscription appeared in the air. Lin Xian waved his hand and threw a stalk of spirit grass towards the inscription in the air. When the stalk of spirit grass touched the inscription in the air, it began to peel off and shatter. Soon it became a ball of liquid. The inscription slowly rotated and some black impurities were removed. Chapter 155. Lin Xian used this method to purify the remaining spiritual herbs. Several balls of crystal clear liquid floated in the air, emitting a medicinal fragrance. Next is the fusion, Wine Lord said. Then he gave Lin Xian an inscription. This was a more complicated inscription. It was 2 or 3 times more difficult than the purification inscription. Lin Xian focused his mind and calmed his breathing. He operated his soul force with all his strength, and finally, after failing once, he succeeded in drawing the fusion inscription. Several balls of crystal clear liquid were guided by him. They slowly gathered and fused. This process was very slow and consumed a lot of soul power. Lin Xian's forehead was covered in sweat. His face was slightly pale, but his eyes were shining. Finally, the liquid successfully gathered together. Finally, it's the refining, Wine Lord said slowly. Lin Xian drew an inscription. The fist-sized liquid kept rolling. Traces of impurities were squeezed out again. A strange fragrance gradually appeared in the air. It was getting thicker and thicker. Lin Xian took out a wine pot and poured the spiritual liquid into it. Then he sighed in relief. This was his first time refining. He was not very familiar with the technique. Moreover, his soul power and spiritual power were mostly consumed. He was very tired. Lord Alcohol gave a rare smile. You succeeded on your first try. Your talent isn't bad. Lin Xian picked up the wine pot and tasted it. Then he smiled bitterly. Compared to wine lords, it was much worse. Looks like I need to practice more. Lin Xian put the wine pot aside and began to meditate. He practiced in his room for an entire day. During this time, Tonglan came once. She found that she could not enter the room, so she left. The next day, Lin Xian went out to bid farewell to the Tong family. He was going to the Snow Province. With his speed and cultivation, it would take him about a month to reach the Snow Province. Counting the days, it was the right time to leave. He found Tonglan and prepared to say goodbye. Brother Lin, Tonglan will remember your kindness. If there's anything I can help you with, just let me know. Tonglan said sincerely. Lin Xian waved his hand and left the Tong clan. He strolled around the city again, bought some things, and then left the city. With the map of Xia country in hand, Lin Xian checked the correct direction and began the arduous journey. According to his plan, most of the time he would take the mountain roads. This way he would be able to hunt some demonic beasts and search for spiritual herbs. He spent most of his time on cultivation even when he was traveling. During this period he had killed many demonic beasts, but he had also been chased by demonic beasts. A rank 5 demon wolf chased him for 4 to 5 days and almost ate him. In the end, Lin Xian still managed to escape. At night by the river, Lin Xian raised a fire and roasted 2 wild beasts, preparing to feast. Suddenly, the palpitating feeling appeared again, as if there was a pair of eyes staring at him from the darkness. Lin Xian frowned. He was being watched after all. Kid used lightning. The yin qi in his body is too strong, and he's afraid of yang objects. Wine Lord reminded him through voice transmission. Lin Xian stabbed his long sword into the ground beside him. Then his whole body was covered in golden electric arcs, crackling. As expected, the mysterious green-haired man didn't step forward. He only stared at Lin Xian from afar. However, the danger wasn't eliminated. Lin Xian had to maintain the lightning all over his body in order to intimidate the green-haired man. The sky gradually brightened, and the strange green-haired man disappeared into the mountains. Lin Xian heaved a sigh of relief. His face was a little pale. After releasing lightning for an entire night, even if his spiritual power was strong, he almost collapsed. Fortunately, he had obtained a lot of spiritual wine in the Blood Heavenly Palace. He drank a cup and quickly recovered his spiritual power. He couldn't act alone anymore. Lin Xian's heart was heavy. After entering the Snow Province, the environment had changed drastically. The yin qi was strong, and the green-haired man was likely to attack. He had to find someone to rely on to intimidate the green-haired man. Up ahead was the border town of Qingzhou. Let's go there first. Lin Xian put away the map and ran into the distance. The ancient town, the border town of Qingzhou, was close to the Snow Province. The climate here was very different from the central part of Qingzhou. It had become very cold. There was snow on the ground and snowflakes were floating in the air. The pedestrians were all wearing thick animal fur coats. Lin Xian walked around the city in a thin robe, attracting the attention of some people. Very few people were like him. Even some warriors were wearing a beast skin coat. Lin Xian didn't want to attract attention, so he walked into a shop next to him. "Sir, please come in." The waiter welcomed Lin Xian in with a smile on his face. When he saw Lin Xian wearing so little, he knew business was coming. "Sir, the clothes in our shop are famous in the city. Some warriors in the Snow Province have come here to buy them," the waiter said solemnly. "Judging from your appearance, you must be going to the Snow Province. Let me tell you, the Snow Province is too cold. It's not a place for people to live. I'll find you a thick coat. It's definitely warm." The waiter kept talking non-stop. "How do you know I'm going to the Snow Province?" Lin Xian asked with a smile. Everyone knows that the snow-seeking sect in the Snow Province has become a third-grade sect. All the martial artists are running in that direction. "Sir, you look like a person with profound martial arts skills. You must be going there as well. Lin Xian smiled and pointed to a snow-white bear fur coat. I'll take this. Sir, you have good taste. The waiter's eyes lit up. This coat is made of the fur of the rank for demonic beast, the white magic bear. It's definitely warm. And it has a certain defensive function. Rank for demonic beast. Lin Xian was surprised. No wonder he could feel a strong aura from it. 30,000 low-grade spiritual stones, the waiter said with a smile. Lin Xian was not surprised. The fur of a rank for demonic beast was indeed expensive. There was a faint demonic aura on this white bear coat. It was obviously not handled well. The shop owner should know, so he only sold it for 30,000 low-grade spiritual stones. If it was normal, it should be worth 50,000 spiritual stones. After paying the spiritual stones, Lin Xian put on the white bear coat and left. As expected, it was much warmer after putting it on. Moreover, the skin of a rank for demonic beast could not be damaged by an ordinary martial artist in the third layer of the spiritual ocean tier. However, there was a faint demonic aura on this coat. If a martial artist wore it for a long time, it might damage his body. However, Lin Xian had a way to get rid of the demonic aura on it. Golden electric arcs surged on his body and covered the entire coat, as if it was covered with a layer of golden gauze. Traces of faint black qi gushed out and disappeared in the air. The demonic aura inside was cleared away by Lin Xian with the power of thunder and lightning. The entire coat became warmer and its defensive power increased by a lot. Lin Xian's thunder and lightning grade was very high. At least the thunder and lightning produced by 2 spirit tier martial arts couldn't compare to his. This thunder and lightning came from Black Heaven sect guarding treasure, Cloud Thunder Mountain. It could be said to be exceptionally precious. Walking on the street, Lin Xian heard something that made him excited. 3 days later, an auction would be held here. It was said that there were many good things this time. Chapter 156. It was still the auction hosted by the Myriad Treasure Tower, scheduled to be held 3 days later. At this time, many martial artists already gathered in the city. Originally, they were all going to rush to the snow-seeking sect, but after hearing about the auction, they all stopped. Just 3 days, everyone did not lack this time. But if they missed the good stuff because of this, it would be too late for regrets. Lin Xian put on a loose black robe, covering his entire body. Then, he headed to the Myriad Treasure Tower, preparing to sell the mystic rank treasure saber on him. A beautiful maidservant led him in and brought him to the treasure appraisal room. An old man sat there, and beside him was a beautiful woman. Lin Xian walked in, his entire body shrouded in the black robe, making people unable to see his true face. I wonder what your distinguished self wants to sell, the old man asked. He was not surprised by Lin Xian's attire. Many people did not want to show their true face to people. Lin Xian flicked his storage ring, and a fiery red long saber appeared in his hand. Immediately, the temperature in the entire room rose by a lot. Slightly revolving spiritual energy, the long saber trembled, emitting a dazzling saber light, and a heat wave gushed out. This is. The white-robed old man was surprised, and the young woman beside him also had a look of surprise. Her beautiful eyes stared at Lin Xian, seemingly wanting to see through him. But it was as if there was an invisible force blocking her gaze. This is a mystic rank treasure. The white-robed old man stroked the saber body and said, Wei, go and invite old man Cho over. The young woman nodded and glanced at Lin Xian again, then quickly walked out of the room. Before long, a red-robed old man walked in. The old man's hair was disheveled, and his body even reeked of alcohol. He did not look like an appraiser at all. But towards this drunkard-like old man, Lin Xian was vigilant in his heart. He felt a powerful soul undulation from the drunkard old man. This undulation was even more than Master Hong's. After the red-robed old man saw the fiery red long saber, his eyes lit up, and the smell of alcohol on his body also disappeared. This is good stuff. The drunkard old man took the long saber and wiped it with his finger. An inscription appeared on it, flickering non-stop. Low profound rank artifact. The red-robed old man nodded and said, Moreover, it should be an ancient object. The inscription technique on it is somewhat different from the current one. After feeling it for a bit, the red-robed old man said, It should be able to increase the attack by about 40%, and it also has the rare fire damage. I estimate that it can be sold for more than 100,000 low-grade spirit stones. The red-robed old man said. The starting price is set at 100,000 low-grade spirit stones. Do you have any objections? Lin Xian shook his head and had no objections. He had asked the wine lord, and with his own calculations, he felt that it was possible. It's like this. If the auction is successful, we will charge a 10% commission, the red-robed old man continued. Lin Xian agreed. Although it pained him a little, this was a rule that no one could avoid. Seeing that Lin Xian was so straightforward, the two old men were also happy. After the white-robed old man finished registering, he handed Lin Xian an information card. After the auction is over, use this card to receive the spirit stones. After saying that, he handed out a white token. This is a silver token. After the auction is successful, you will be a silver customer of our 1,000 treasure tower. With this token, the next time you auction something, the commission will only be 8%. Lin Xian reached out and took it, then put it into the storage ring. His hand was slender, powerful, and very young. The three people in the room were a little surprised. They did not expect the owner of the long saber to be so young. The white-robed old man subconsciously went to check, but Lin Xian had a layer of power blocking him. This old man was reckless. The white-robed old man said apologetically. He was indeed a little curious just now. However, the result of the check made him even more curious. The black-robed man in front of him actually had a strong soul power. No worries, Lin Xian said lightly. If someone consigns a long sword artifact, can you inform me? No problem, the white-robed old man said. He knew that some people like to trade below so it could save some trouble. Getting a response, Lin Xian turned around and left. Looking at Lin Xian's disappearing back view, the red-robed old man praised. Soul power is pretty good. So young and has such soul power. Could he be those few old fellows' disciple? Doesn't seem like it. Those few people all have arrogance on them. But this person is very steady, the red-robed old man said solemnly. Either way, he will still come. If possible, there's no harm in roping him in, the white-robed old man said. Leaving the 1,000 treasure tower, Lin Xian stayed in an inn and continued cultivating. When he was tired from practicing inscriptions, he would cultivate the longevity art. After his mind power recovered, he would practice inscriptions again. In a blink, 3 days already passed. He put on a black robe and walked towards the 1,000 treasure tower. Today, the people going to the 1,000 treasure tower were clearly much more. The streets appeared crowded. The 1,000 treasure tower's entrance was even more packed. Although it was crowded in front of the 1,000 treasure tower, no one dared to fight. Lin Xian fished out the silver token and was received respectfully by the attendant inside. Under the envious gazes of countless people, he slowly walked in. Who is that person? He can actually walk through the special passageway. Quite a few people discussed animatedly. After Lin Xian walked in, there were still some people who entered through the special passageway. These people were all members of some major factions, their identities and statuses incomparably noble. After Lin Xian went in, he inquired about the situation of the consignment. In the end, he learned that there were indeed long swords and treasured artifacts to be auctioned, but private purchases were not accepted. Lin Xian sighed, then walked into the auction hall, and found a place to sit down. Silver rank customers did not have the right to go to private rooms, unless they advanced to gold rank. Sitting in his seat, Lin Xian quietly unleashed his soul power and explored the entire venue. He was very cautious. Some crucial and important places he directly skipped over, so as to avoid causing unnecessary misunderstandings. Through soul power, he sensed some familiar people. Among them, he discovered that the Tsang family's disciples had arrived. Song Lei followed behind a young man with a cold expression, sitting in the middle position, while the other person was Master Hong. He entered the private room under the attendant's reception. It seemed that these people should all be going to Snow Province and stopped on the way here. Lin Xian secretly guessed. He closed his eyes to rest, adjusting his state to the best. Not long after, a drum sounded and spread throughout the entire hall. Suddenly, the auction hall quieted down. Everyone's eyes looked forward. There was a crystal auction platform, and at this moment it was lit up. Everyone, Thank you for giving us the honor to participate in our 1,000 Treasure Towers auction. There are indeed many good things today. I hope everyone can return satisfied. The one who spoke was the white-robed old man that Lin Xian had seen before. He said with a smile, "The things being auctioned this time, I believe everyone has some news. I won't say much here. Next, we will auction our first item." Chapter 157. The first item is the Jade Miracle Pill. This is a type of pill created by an inscription master. I believe everyone should be familiar with it. This pill can increase the spirit power of a Sea of Soul Realm martial artist. It is very pure, and martial artists only need to absorb it. The white-robed old man explained a little. Lin Xian understood that this pill could shorten the cultivation time and allow a martial artist's cultivation to increase rapidly in a short period of time. However, one couldn't eat too much of this pill. After all, it wasn't cultivated by oneself. No matter how pure it was, it still contained impurities. There are 3 pills in total, and they will be auctioned separately. The white-robed old man obviously knew about this. He slowly said, "The starting price is 10,000 low-grade spirit stones, and each increment must be no less than 1,000. After the white-robed old man finished speaking, the people below boiled with excitement. Most of the people present were martial artists in the Sea of Soul realm. They needed this pill very much. Immediately, many people began to bid. 12,000, 15,000, 18,000. Shouts came one after another. Lin Xian was speechless. It seemed that he had underestimated the temptation of this pill. For ordinary martial artists, the increase in their cultivation would greatly increase their strength. Perhaps they would be valued within the sect or have a higher chance of escaping during an adventure. In the end, the first Jade Miracle Pill was bought at a price of 22,000. As for the remaining 2 pills, they were sold for 20,000 and 24,000 respectively. 3 pills were sold for nearly 70,000 low-grade spirit stones. This was something that Lin Xian didn't dare to imagine before. The white-robed old man was also very satisfied with the price of the first item. The rest of the auction went smoothly. Every item that appeared in the auction house wasn't ordinary. If there were no objections, it would be sold. Lin Xian didn't make a move. He didn't lack cultivation methods or pills at the moment, but he needed a sharp weapon. The auction went on slowly. In 2 hours, 7 items were sold. At this time, the white-robed old man on the auction stage said in a clear voice, "The next item can be said to be a rare item. I hope everyone can grasp it." His words aroused everyone's interest. Many people were guessing what the item was. "Master Bai, don't keep us in suspense. Hurry up and say it." Below the stage, an impatient martial artist shouted. Everyone looked curiously at the auction stage, waiting for the white-robed old man to reveal the answer. A beautiful maid walked forward with a fiery red saber in her hand. The white-robed old man held the saber in his hand and gently swung it in the air. A 10-meter-long saber light suddenly appeared and streaked across the sky. It was accompanied by a heat wave that rose to the sky. Whoosh! Like a sea of fire spreading, the sky was dyed red. Mystic rank artifact. The crowd below cried out in surprise when they felt this power. Whoosh! 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 For a moment, everyone's fiery eyes were focused on the auction stage. The white-robed old man was very satisfied with this result. He laughed and said, "That's right, it is indeed a profound rank treasure. Moreover, it is an antique. The origin of this saber is mysterious. It's not a product of the current era. Everyone, don't miss this opportunity." The white-robed old man put the saber back and said with a smile, "The starting price is 100,000 low-grade spiritual stones. Each bid must be at least 10,000 spiritual stones." His words echoed in the auction house for a long time. Hiss! Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air, and the fire in their hearts was extinguished. 100,000 spiritual stones was not a small number. Ordinary Soul Realm martial artists could not afford it at all. Only disciples of some large sects or young masters of aristocratic families could afford such a huge sum. Once these people participated in the auction, the price would definitely be more than 100,000 spiritual stones. The scene was silent for a moment. Ordinary disciples could not afford it, and the rich people were watching. Lin Xian frowned slightly. This was not what he wanted to see. 110,000, he said indifferently. A profound ranked treasure saber was not common. He did not believe that these people would let it go. Sure enough, after he opened his mouth, people increased the price one after another. The price of the fiery red saber kept rising until it reached 150,000. Ordinary martial artists had already begun to swallow their saliva. Lin Xian's eyes flashed, and a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. He knew that the price would not stop here because he noticed that one of the people participating in the auction was a disciple of the Cong family. He was Cong Lei's brother, Cong Bao. As a swordsman and a genius disciple on the hidden dragon roll, Lin Xian believed that he would not let go of this opportunity. Sure enough, Cong Bao's face was gloomy, and he seemed to be a little impatient. He snorted coldly and said in a cold voice, 200,000. Silence, absolute silence. Only Cong Bao's voice echoed. Everyone was shocked by his increase in price. Lin Xian smiled in satisfaction. This price had already exceeded his budget. Even the white-robed old man on the auction stage was smiling. Just when everyone thought that it was over, a lazy voice sounded. 210,000. What? Someone is increasing the price. Someone is actually not giving face to Cong Bao. In Qingzhou, there was basically no one who did not know Cong Bao. Now someone was trying to snatch food from the tiger's mouth. However, when everyone found out the source of the voice, they all fell silent. That was because the voice came from one of the private rooms. Anyone who could enter the private room was either of a prominent status or outstanding strength. They were far from what they could compare to. Cong Bao's face was gloomy. He looked at the private room on the second floor and clenched his fists. 220,000. Cong Bao called out the price. 230,000. That voice was still lazy and there was no change in it. 250,000. Cong Bao gritted his teeth and said, this was already his limit. Any more and he would have to give up. His knuckles turned pale from the force he exerted. With this saber, he would definitely be able to enter the top 50 of the hidden dragon list. 260,000. That voice seemed to be saying something insignificant. Cong Bao's body stiffened. He did not continue to bid and sat there with a gloomy face. On the auction stage, the white-robed old man said with a smile, congratulations to the owner of Private Room 3 for obtaining this mist-class treasure saber. Everyone was amazed. The price of 260,000 had already exceeded the value of a low-class mist-class treasure. However, that person did not care at all. The happiest person was Lin Xian. He did not expect a low-class mist-class treasure to be able to sell for 260,000 spiritual stones. This was already close to the value of a mid-class mist-class treasure. With this money, he had more confidence in the longsword treasure that would be auctioned later. The auction that followed was a bit dull. The mood of the crowd was clearly not very high. However, the next item pushed the atmosphere of the auction to a climax. The white-robed old man took out a long sword and raised it high in the air. The sword was 3 feet long and there were ancient inscriptions carved on it. The blade of the sword was like autumn water, dripping with a cold light. The long sword gently danced and the sword light flashed, cutting through the void. Lin Xian could keenly feel that the power of this long sword was far above the fiery red long sword. This sword is called Autumn Scar, a mid-class mist-class treasure. The starting price is 200,000. Each bid must be at least 10,000 higher. As the white-robed old man's voice fell, the crowd boiled over. At this time, the doors of the auction slowly opened and a group of people walked in. Everyone was puzzled and turned to look. They knew that during the auction, martial artists were not allowed to casually enter. But now someone had ignored this rule and walked in. Lin Xian also turned to look. When he saw that person, his body froze. Behind him, a group of people stood at the entrance, their bodies releasing a powerful aura. The person in the middle had sharp eyebrows and sharp eyes. His aura was sharp, like a divine sword that had been unsheathed. Chapter 158. Lin Feng. Many people were surprised when they saw the silhouette behind them. Lin Feng was ranked 5th on the hidden dragon ranking. It was said that he had fought against the 3rd-ranked cultivator, and that his ranking had risen again. Besides, he was from the Sword Lake Palace and had a noble status. Something happened on the way so I came late. Sorry for disturbing you. Lin Feng said to the old men from the 10,000 Treasures Tower. The few of them nodded slightly in tacit agreement. The Sword Lake Palace was one of the top powers in the Xia country, and Lin Feng was the leader of the younger generation. Even though the 10,000 Treasures Tower was powerful, they didn't want to offend the Sword Lake Palace. Lin Feng and the others were invited into a private room, and the crowd looked back at the auction stage. The old man in the white robe cleared his throat and said in a clear voice, "The Autumn Scar sword starts at 200,000. The auction starts now." Lin Xian took a deep breath. At that moment he had the urge to rush up to Lin Feng. Luckily he controlled himself. He wanted to go back to the Sword Lake Palace and defeat Lin Feng in front of everyone. He wanted to restore his reputation. After calming himself down, Lin Xian returned to the auction. At that moment the price had already risen to 250,000 and it was still rising. After all, it was a medium Xian level treasure which could increase one's attack power by 60%. Everyone wanted it. 300,000. Lin Feng's private room called out the price. But Lin Xian knew that it wasn't Lin Feng's voice. It was probably the voice of someone next to him. In the fifth private room, Lin Feng was sitting comfortably on a chair. Next to him was a young man with a sword mark on his forehead. "What? Are you interested in that sword?" Lin Feng asked indifferently. "I just want to collect it." The young man with the sword mark smiled. 310,000. At this moment a lazy voice rang out, clearly echoing in the hall. The crowd was stunned. They hadn't thought that someone would dare to compete with Lin Feng. Also, the crowd realized that the owner of the voice was the one who had won the bid. When Songbao heard that voice, his body started to tremble. That voice had made him lose his opportunity. In the fifth private room, the young man with the sword mark groaned coldly. "So there are people who aren't afraid of death." He was about to fight back, but at that moment another bid sounded in the hall. 320,000. His voice was very steady, and his tone was firm. Everyone was in an uproar. They all turned their heads to look for the person who had spoken. Lin Xian was in the hall and didn't try to hide himself. Soon someone noticed him. Countless gazes gathered on him. Many people were puzzled. Who is this black-robed man? I don't know. He surprisingly dared steal from Lin Feng's people. He's definitely going to die, whispered those people. In their opinion, the person in the third private room had dared to speak because he had a high social status. He didn't fear Lin Feng at all. On the other hand, Zhang Xian was unable to see through the cultivation of the black-robed man, and given that he was seated in the main hall, it was likely that the other party had an ordinary background. However, he actually dared to participate in the bidding. This made everyone unable to see through him. "I've seen him before. He has a silver medallion." Someone who had seen Lin Xian at the entrance spoke out. Many people shook their heads and sneered. Although the silver token was precious, it was much less valuable than the person in the private room. Lin Xian saw everyone's reaction, but he did not say anything. He had to get his hands on this sword. In the fifth private room, the young man's face became very ugly. It was fine if the people in the other private rooms competed with him. After all, they were all people of equal status. However, a cultivator sitting in the hall dared to participate in this matter. This made him feel humiliated. "You're courting death." The young man's voice was cold. His eyes were like lightning, penetrating through layers of barriers and locking onto Lin Xian. Humph! Lin Xian felt the gazes from the second floor. He turned his head slightly and a trace of sword intent appeared in his eyes. He cut off the gazes that were looking at him. There was a small fluctuation in the air. Some people with high cultivation noticed that something was wrong. Quite a few people revealed looks of surprise. The young man was stunned, and then his face became gloomy. He didn't expect that he would be at a disadvantage. Just now there was a trace of fierce intent in his eyes. He originally wanted to teach the black-robed man a lesson. However, he didn't expect that the other party's chi was even fiercer than his. He directly contained a trace of attack and counterattacked. "Hey, I seem to feel a trace of sword intent." Lin Feng frowned and looked at the black-robed man below. At the same time, there was a soft sound of surprise in the third private room. Lin Xian felt that a soul power flowed out of the third private room and probed towards him. Lin Xian's eyes flashed. He also mobilized his soul power and covered his body to prevent anyone from probing. In the third private room, a handsome young man was half lying lazily. His whole body sank into a soft reclining chair. Suddenly, his face changed slightly, and there was a trace of surprise in his eyes. Just now, his soul perception had been blocked. Obviously, the other party was also a master of soul power. Outstanding soul power, and there seemed to be a trace of sword intent. Who is this person? The handsome young man rubbed his chin and was lost in thought. The black-robed man's performance was beyond everyone's expectations. For a moment, his identity became very mysterious. 350,000. The young man said coldly. 360,000. The handsome young man in the third private room said lazily. 380,000. Lin Xian said in a deep voice. The price rose rapidly, and soon it reached 400,000. Lin Xian frowned. He had earned 260,000 spirit stones from auctioning off the long saber, and over 200,000 spirit stones from the spirit herbs he had on him. Adding the spirit stones he had obtained from the others, he had about 500,000 spirit stones. The current price made him feel a little depressed. However, fortunately, the owner of the third private room withdrew from the competition. Now, only Lin Xian and the young man were left. 420,000. The young man said coldly. 450,000. Lin Xian's voice did not change at all. Humph. In the fifth private room, the young man snorted coldly. This price has exceeded the value of the long sword itself. Don't compete anymore. Lin Feng said indifferently. Don't worry, I won't bid anymore. But there are many ways to get that sword. The young man looked at Lin Xian with an extremely cold gaze. 450,000. Is there anyone else? On the auction stage, the old man in the white robe asked loudly, but he was overjoyed. No one answered. This price was already high enough. Even the people in the private rooms withdrew from the competition. In the end, the autumn scar sword was won by Lin Xian. The next item is very special. It is a piece of information about a spiritual weapon. The old man in the white robe said in a deep voice. Originally, Lin Xian wanted to leave and trade backstage. However, the information in front of him made him stop. Not only him, but the whole hall was boiling. A spiritual weapon was a top weapon in the eyes of the world. Usually, only the top sects and clans had one. But now a new spiritual weapon had appeared. How could these people not be excited? However, how could a piece of information be auctioned? Chapter 159. It's here. Lin Feng narrowed his eyes in private room 5. Don't worry, young Master Feng. It's definitely ours. The young man clenched his fists and said. Outside, everyone was discussing animatedly. Their words were filled with excitement. On the auction stage, the old man in the white robe waved his hand to silence the whole place. Everyone, this information comes from a map. Whoever buys this map will be able to obtain this information. Another thing to tell everyone is that this map is incomplete. The old man in the white robe said in a deep voice. In fact, he is not very sure. After all, one incomplete map may not be able to infer anything. Sure enough, after hearing about the incomplete map, many people booed, and half of the enthusiasm in their hearts was extinguished. The ordinary warriors in the hall were talking with each other, and it was noisy. An ancient map. The starting price is 300,000 spiritual stones. The auction starts now. These warriors booed. In their opinion, no one would buy such a thing. Lin Xian shook his head, stood up and prepared to leave. 350,000. A voice rang out like a clap of thunder in everyone's ears. What? Someone really bid. Those warriors were stunned. Could it be that the map really recorded it? Lin Xian suddenly turned around and looked at private room 5 on the second floor. He recognized that it was Lin Feng's voice. Did he come here specifically for this map? Lin Xian was puzzled. 360,000. The lazy voice sounded again. The crowd was excited. Although they could not afford it, they could watch the fun. Sure enough, after these two people bid, some more people bid. These people were all distinguished guests in private rooms on the second floor. For them, they would rather buy the wrong thing than let it go. Lin Xian shook his head and turned to leave. These prices were already beyond his ability. Even if he could get the treasure map, he might not be able to keep it. After all, the temptation of a spiritual treasure was too great. It was enough to make anyone go crazy. Lin Xian's departure attracted the attention of many people. A mid-grade profound rank treasure was enough to make one's heart palpitate with excitement. In the number 5 private room, the sword-mark youth stared at Lin Xian's figure with an evil smile on his face. You can't run away. No one can take away what I want. Lin Xian sensed all of those subtle gazes. He sneered in his heart and quickly walked backstage. With his current strength, he could fight against a warrior at the late stage of the 3rd level of the spiritual sea realm. If he had the Autumn Scar Sword, then even against a warrior at the 4th level of the spiritual sea realm, he would have the power to battle. In addition, he also had the Bronze Gauntlet and the Yellowed Talisman treasure. These 2 items were enough to kill a martial artist at the 5th layer of the spiritual ocean realm. However, he wouldn't use it unless he had no other choice. This kind of thing would be damaged every time it was used. Cracks had already appeared on the Bronze Gauntlet, which made his heart ache. After arriving at the backstage, Lin Xian handed over the soul stones and received the Autumn Scar Sword. Get that black scabbard. Wine Lord transmitted his voice. Lin Xian glanced at the black scabbard on the jade plate. It looked very ordinary and there was nothing special about it. However, he would not let go of anything that could move Wine Lord's heart. Can you give this scabbard to me? Lin Xian asked casually. Sure. The martial artist in charge of the 1,000 Treasure Tower didn't care about a scabbard and gave it to Lin Xian on the spot. Putting away the scabbard, Lin Xian let out a sigh of relief. Nodding his head, Lin Xian prepared to leave. Little friend, please wait. An old voice sounded. It was abnormally strong. Lin Xian stopped in his tracks. There was a hint of caution in his eyes. He said in a low voice, What, the 1,000 Treasure Tower can't even bear to give out a scabbard? Little friend, don't misunderstand. I want to talk to you. The red-robed elder appeared with a smile. Don't worry, I'm not here for some scabbard. I just want to talk to you. All right, what do you want to talk about? Lin Xian's heart moved. He needed a powerful force to intimidate the mysterious green-haired man. If he could get closer to the 1,000 Treasure Tower, then it would be the best. Little friend, this way please, the red-robed elder said with a smile. Lin Xian followed behind him and walked into an antique room. I wonder if little friend can take off the black robe? The red-robed elder said. I represent the 1,000 Treasure Tower to discuss something with little friend. I absolutely have no malice. Okay, Lin Xian said solemnly. He waved his hand and put the black robe into his storage ring. The red-robed elder looked at Lin Xian, a hint of shock appearing in his eyes. He knew that Lin Xian was young, but he didn't expect that he would be so young. This was clearly a youth. I wonder what senior is looking for this brat for? Lin Xian asked politely. Ooh, heroes come from the youth, the red-robed elder said while stroking his beard. I want to ask if little friend is an inscription master. Done talking, he looked at Lin Xian with a look of anticipation. Lin Xian nodded. The old man's gaze made him feel somewhat nervous. Then do you know about the inscription tower? Lin Xian shook his head. I've been cultivating with my master in the mountains. I've only recently come out to explore the world. For his own safety, he once again brought up his incorporeal master. Oh, I wonder who your master is? The red-robed elder asked subconsciously. My master is very low-key, Lin Xian lied. I wonder why senior is looking for me? He quickly changed the topic. The red-robed elder didn't think much about it. After all, many experts like to live in seclusion. At that moment he said slowly, If possible, I would like to invite you to participate in a competition in the name of the 1,000 Treasure Tower. It is said that the inscription tower was left behind by an inscription master. It is located at the border between the Xia country and the Shadow country. There are some unique inscriptions and inscriptions in it. It is a sacred place for inscriptionists. However, due to its geographical location, it is determined that it can't be occupied by any country alone. So every 3 years, the Xia country and the Shadow country will decide which side will enter by means of a martial arts competition. The Xia country has lost twice in a row. This time we can't lose again. There was a trace of anger and helplessness on the red-robed elder's face. If it is a competition, you shouldn't be looking for me, right? Lin Xian was puzzled. Isn't it better to be an expert on the hidden dragon role? Little friend, although it is a competition, the participants must be inscriptionists. Although there are many geniuses on the hidden dragon role, there are not many inscriptionists. Little friend, your soul power is the strongest I have ever seen. It is far beyond your peers. Lin Xian understood. Indeed, his soul force was much stronger than that of an ordinary first-grade inscription master, let alone people of the same age. Don't worry. As long as you participate, you will be rewarded, the red-robed elder said hurriedly when he saw that Lin Xian was silent. In his body the wine lord said, Little Xian, if that inscription tower is real, you can go in and take a look. Lin Xian's heart skipped a beat. He pondered for a moment and said slowly, I wonder when this competition will start? I don't want to miss the snow-seeking sect's grand event. Little friend, don't worry. This competition will be after the snow-seeking sect's grand event. If I win the competition, will I be able to get a spot to enter the inscription tower? Lin Xian asked in a deep voice. The red-robed elder was stunned. His face suddenly sank. A strong aura slowly overflowed, and the entire room became very oppressive. Lin Xian's spiritual sea shook and made a roaring sound. At the same time, he spread out his soul power to resist the pressure. His expression didn't change. He slowly stretched out his hand and drew in the air. An ancient inscription appeared in the air, emitting a strange light. Chapter 160. The inscriptions in the air completely stunned the red-robed elder. What an exquisite inscription! The old man exclaimed after a while. I need to discuss your requests with others. The old man said. No matter what, I'll give you an answer in 3 days. Thank you very much. Lin Xian bowed and walked out of the room. Looking at Lin Xian's back, the old man took a deep breath. This young man's attainment in inscription was far beyond his expectations. He looked at the inscription that was gradually disappearing in the air, and fell into deep thought. Lin Xian walked out of the room and went straight outside. The inscription just now was drawn under the guidance of Wine Lord. He didn't expect it to really shock the old man. It seems that Wine Lord's inscription is far beyond these people. Lin Xian was delighted. When he walked out of the Thousand Treasures building, the auction had just ended and the crowd was rushing out. Through the conversation of others, he learned that the last piece of the map was bought by Lin Feng at the price of 600,000 low-grade spiritual stones. What a spendthrift! Lin Xian curled his lips and walked towards the inn. Behind him, a few obscure eyes fell on him. One of them was the sword-marked young man beside Lin Feng. Seeing Lin Xian check into the Four Seas Inn, the sword-marked young man sneered and then left. Lin Xian naturally knew that these people were following him. But he didn't care. If these people didn't open their eyes, he didn't mind sending them on their way. Back in the room, Lin Xian used the red flame sword to set up a defensive formation, and then breathed a sigh of relief. After calming down, he flicked the storage ring with his finger, and a long sword appeared in his hand. Gently shaking, a sword shadow appeared in the air. It was like a rainbow in autumn, cold to the heart. Lin Xian urged the thunder in his body. In a flash, golden arcs climbed up the sword. Circulating his spiritual energy once more, the golden arcs of lightning disappeared. Instead, a green gust of wind wrapped around the sword, adding a bit of spirituality to it. Lin Xian was very satisfied with this. He felt that the 450,000 low-grade spirit stones were not wasted. Humph! You don't know what's important. In my opinion, the black scabbard is the real deal. Wine Lord snorted. Lin Xian's heart skipped a beat when he heard this. With a flip of his hand, he took out the black scabbard and looked at it curiously. Nothing special, Lin Xian muttered. Then he activated his purple spirit eyes and carefully observed the surroundings. Finally, he even used his soul force to check inside and out. If it was that easy to see through, you wouldn't have been able to get the item, Wine Lord said. Wine Lord, what's the use of this? Lin Xian asked. Put the sword back into the scabbard, Wine Lord said. Lin Xian did as he was told and sheathed the autumn scar sword. Use the power of wind and thunder at the same time. Control your power and don't destroy the house. Lin Xian's eyebrows twitched. Could it be? He used the power of wind and thunder at the same time. Then he controlled his power and suddenly pulled out the sword. Qi. Qi. Under his control, the sword qi was attached to the sword and did not leak out. However, he could clearly see that the power of wind and thunder had perfectly merged together. The air within 3 feet of him had been sliced apart. This is the power of wind and thunder, Lin Xian exclaimed. He had wanted to merge these two powers for a long time. However, without the corresponding martial arts, it was very difficult for him to succeed. But now, a black scabbard had solved this problem. It is indeed a good item. He touched the black scabbard and his face was full of joy. Humph, now you know how to be happy. Wine Lord snorted. Hee. Lin Xian hugged the scabbard and laughed. In the next 2 hours, Lin Xian studied the black scabbard. He realized that the more power of wind and thunder he poured in, the longer it could last. However, it could only last for 10 breaths of time. In other words, after 10 breaths of time, the power of wind and thunder on the longsword would be separated again. However, for Lin Xian this was already enough. In the evening, Lin Xian went out for a meal before returning to his room. He lived in a small independent courtyard, which was very quiet. In the following time, he put away the autumn scar sword and the black scabbard and started to practice his inscriptions. These days, he had not slacked off on his practice, including his martial arts. Inscriptions were the same as martial arts. It was like sailing against the current. If you did not advance, you would fall behind. Lin Xian did not slack off for even a second. His inscriptions were also improving rapidly. In the middle of the night, Lin Xian stopped his training and took out some spirit wine to recover quickly. He had a feeling that someone would make a move for the autumn scar sword. Raising his bodhi's condition to the extreme, Lin Xian closed his eyes and started to recover. Indeed, in the latter half of the night, he sensed the presence of warriors. Spreading out his soul power, Lin Xian grasped the situation within a dozen meters radius. On the roof, 3 human figures were approaching quietly. The corner of Lin Xian's mouth lifted slightly as his body flashed and disappeared. The 3 men in black had their faces covered, and the presence on their bodies was hidden. You 3, what are you doing on my roof in the middle of the night? A mocking voice was heard from behind, and the 3 men in black were shocked. Let's go. The middle man in black roared. The 3 moved quickly, and the presence on their bodies exploded like a flood. Their spirit power surged, shaking the air. These 3 were all warriors at the 3rd sky of the spiritual sea realm. The 3 of them worked together, forming a triangle. Hand over the autumn scar sword, and we will spare your life. The middle man in black roared. Are you talking about this? Lin Xian took out the autumn scar sword and waved it in front of the 3. The 3's eyes were attracted by the long sword, and their breathing became hurried. Hand it over to us. The man in black roared. You guys are not worthy of this sword. Lin Xian hung the long sword on his waist. Kid, you are looking for death. The 3 men in black were furious and attacked together. Fuck off. Lin Xian took a step forward and roared out a sound wave. Who? The translucent sound wave vibrated, and together with the soul power attack, it pierced through the defensive armor of the 3. Pooh. 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 The 3 were covered by the sound wave, and their bodies were severely wounded. Horrifying cracks appeared on their bodies one after another. All of a sudden, the 3 were covered in blood. Back off. The 3 men in black robes had fear in their eyes. Is he still human? Just a shout was enough to injure them severely. You want to leave? Lin Xian's body flashed and he blocked the way of the 3. Don't do anything stupid. The 3 were bleeding all over, and their voices were shaking. Leave your storage rings, and don't appear in front of me again. Yes, yes. The 3 took off the storage rings on their fingers and threw them to Lin Xian, then ran away quickly. Putting away the 3 storage rings, Lin Xian's expression did not relax. Instead, it became extremely serious. He felt a powerful aura appear nearby. Most of the warriors nearby had seen Lin Xian's attack, and the ones who still dared to make a move now were undoubtedly powerful warriors. Pap, pap, pap. A clear clapping sound was heard, and a teenager with a sword mark in between his eyebrows appeared. With the cultivation of the 2nd sky of the spiritual sea realm, he was able to beat back 3 warriors at the 3rd level of the spiritual sea realm with one attack. He is indeed not simple. However, if he wants to get the autumn scar sword with just this, I am afraid that it is not enough. Chapter 161. Sword chi hummed and buzzed. The young man took a step forward and his aura increased again, like a mountain pressing down. Nearby, some warriors poked their heads out and watched the battle in the distance nervously. Who is that? What a horrifying aura. There are no weaklings around Lin Feng. It seems like that young man is going to be in trouble. The young man stared at Lin Xian and slowly pulled out his long sword. It was a golden long sword with a curved body, like a crawling poisonous snake. The long sword left its scabbard and turned into a curved beam of light in the air. Golden Snake Sword. He is Golden Snake Sword Yan Hui. The warriors nearby exclaimed. Golden Snake Sword Yan Hui. Rank 32nd on the Hidden Dragon rank. No one had expected him to appear here. With the long sword in his hand, the young man's body also twisted strangely like a snake. Behind him, a sword-shaped snake shadow gradually appeared. It was extremely horrifying. Lin Xian held the Autumn Scar sword and condensed all his chi into one point. He knew very well that he had no advantage in a battle of spiritual power. However, his attacks were extremely powerful, especially after the fusion of wind and thunder. His battle power had increased again. Golden Snake Strike. The young man swung out his sword and sword chi flashed, covering the sky. Wind and thunder explosion. Lin Xian stomped his feet and chi waves spread out like water splashes. His entire body shot out like an arrow. Boom! Approaching the Golden Snake Sword chi, Lin Xian suddenly pulled out his sword. Boom! The air seemed to explode as a 10-meter-long sword light flew out like lightning. With one sword the wind and thunder moved. Boom! 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 The Autumn Scar sword slashed diagonally and hit the weak point of the Golden Snake Sword chi. All of a sudden, the Golden Snake Sword chi weakened rapidly and disappeared completely. Yan Hu's face looked gloomy. His body flashed and he quickly came to Lin Xian's side. His Golden Snake Sword stabbed out like lightning. Ding! 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 A series of metal clashing sounds rang out in the air. Balls of bright sparks burst out like shooting stars. Every attack of the two was the tip of the sword against the tip of the sword. It was extremely accurate. The difference was that the sword mark youth was advancing while Lin Xian was retreating. There was nothing he could do about it. His opponent's spiritual energy was too strong. Every time they collided, his arm would go numb. Bang! The two swords clashed again, and Lin Xian retreated a few steps with a gloomy face. If that's all you've got, then go to hell. The young man waved his sword, and the sword light split into 2, then 4, and finally 8 golden pythons, which pounced on Lin Xian. Lin Xian's gaze flickered. His opponent's cultivation at the 5th layer of the spiritual ocean tier was too much of a suppression on him. It seemed that he could only use sword intent. Lin Xian sheathed his sword back into its black scabbard, and his eyes gradually turned cold. Are you giving up? In the distance someone sighed. Using the cultivation of the 2nd layer of the spiritual ocean tier to resist the 5th layer of the spiritual ocean tier. This is already a miracle. In the darkness behind these martial practitioners, there were 2 old figures standing far away. One of them was wearing a red robe and the other was wearing a white robe. They were the 2 elders of the 1,000 Treasure Tower. Should we save him? The white-robed elder asked. No, his strength should be more than this. The red-robed elder said in a low voice. Look again. Just as the two were talking, a martial practitioner in front exclaimed. He fought back. Indeed, Lin Xian fought back. The sword intent in his body surged, and the sharp sword intent burst out in an instant. Hurricane style. The sword shadow swept out, and 4 green hurricanes dozens of meters high flew out, sweeping the sky and the earth, crashing into the golden pythons in all directions. With a swing of his sword, Lin Xian attacked continuously. He stepped on the phantom thunder step, and his body kept flashing as he quickly approached the young man. Wind thunder pierce. The green sword chi surged as if it had turned into a green dragon. Outside it, golden electric arcs surrounded it, crackling. The great dragon sword mark in Lin Xian's mind trembled, and the sword chi outside his body let out a dragon roar. The golden electric arcs merged into the sword chi and turned into golden dragon scales, which were extremely dazzling. Oh my god, what kind of chi is this? Someone exclaimed in the distance. Sword intent. The young man was moved for the first time, and there was deep jealousy in his eyes. This was the realm that all swordsmen dreamed of, but only a few people could comprehend it. Among the people he knew, only Lin Feng had comprehended sword intent. That abnormal combat strength made him tremble. This person can't be left alive. In an instant, the young man made up his mind. Whether it was him or Lin Feng, they didn't want anyone who had comprehended sword intent to exist. Bang! The wind thunder sword chi was extremely fast, and in the blink of an eye, it attacked the young man. Thunder and lightning flashed, and the strong wind danced. The violent power destroyed the young man's body protection. When everything calmed down, Lin Xian frowned. On the opposite side, the young man slid back dozens of meters on the ground, and there was a deep dent in the ground. Most of his body protection armor was broken, but it still didn't hurt his body. Is this the strength of the fifth sky of the spiritual sea realm? It's really abnormal. Lin Xian sighed. The gap between their cultivation was too big, and he couldn't break the young man's defense. How dare you hurt me? You can go to hell. The young man's face was ferocious. No matter what, he had to kill Lin Xian. In the distance, a group of warriors was shocked. This combat strength was too horrible. In the darkness, the two elders were even more surprised. I didn't expect this boy to comprehend sword intent. It seems that there is hope for the battle of the inscription tower. The old man in the red robe's eyes were shining. We can't let anything happen to him. The old man in the white robe was ready to attack. Let's see what else this boy can do. The old man in the red robe was not in a hurry. Since he saw the strange rune drawn by Lin Xian, he felt that Lin Xian was not simple. Now it seemed that it was true. Boy, let me see where your limit is. On the battlefield, Lin Xian suddenly attacked. The fusion wind movement was silent. Puff! Behind the young man, the air cracked and a sharp sword chi slashed at his body. A horrifying crack appeared on his armor. It was a shocking sight. However, the young man's defense was too thick. Lin Xian's sword chi could only cut through half of it. Fusion wind movement. Lin Xian threw out sword chi one after another, and all of them flew towards the same spot. The young man was furious. At the same time, he was shocked. If he was hit by 3 sword chi at the same spot, he would definitely be injured. Fortunately, he was not someone with an undeserved reputation. He jumped and dodged 2 sword chi. The young man's body glided in the air, and the shadow of the golden snake appeared behind him. It combined with the golden snake sword in his hand and slashed down. It did not seem to be sword chi, but a real python descending from the sky. Violent and unrestrained spiritual energy came crashing down like a mountain, turning everything below into dust. At this moment, the martial artists in the vicinity all fled for their lives, running far away. Lin Xian retreated quickly and dodged the attack. At the same time, he waved the autumn scar sword in his hand and used the splitting wind movement. The air seemed to have been cut open, and there was a strange shift. The golden python in the air was pulled by an invisible force, as if it was about to be torn apart. Horrifying cracks appeared on some of the weaker parts. Whoosh! The young man ignored Lin Xian's attack and quickly came to his side. Chapter 162. The angle of this attack was extremely tricky, specifically aimed at Lin Xian's vital points. If it hit, even if he survived, he would be half dead. Fortunately, Lin Xian's soul power was strong and he sensed the danger immediately. Lin Xian moved almost at the same time as the young man made his move. He dodged quickly and left an afterimage on the spot. Puff! The golden snake sword pierced the afterimage and pierced through the air. Swoosh! Swoosh! Lin Xian kept moving around the young man, leaving behind a golden shadow every time. You can't trap me. The young man was as steady as a rock. He pierced through the shadows like a viper. However, Lin Xian's goal was not to trap him. Even if the young man pierced through all the shadows, it was useless. Explode! Lin Xian shouted from afar. Rumble! The golden shadows were all condensed by golden thunderbolts, and they carried terrifying power. Now, with this explosion, everything within a radius of 100 feet was enveloped, forming a sea of lightning. Dozens of figures were blasted apart. Golden waves rolled and swept in all directions. The young man was blown away and his body was charred. Bang! He knelt on the ground in a sorry state. His hair was disheveled and his face and body were charred. "Brat, you've completely infuriated me." The young man looked cold and his eyes seemed to be spitting fire. The sword mark on his forehead was about to be undone and a terrifying aura was emitted from his body. Lin Xian's pupils shrank as he sensed a fatal danger. His soul power had touched the bronze gauntlet. If something went wrong, he would take action immediately. At this moment, a voice came from afar and a figure rushed over. "Stop! No fighting in the ancient city." This voice was like rolling thunder shaking the void. When the nearby martial artists heard it, their faces turned pale, and they couldn't even stand steadily. Lin Xian operated his soul power and sword essence to clear the voice. At the same time, he was secretly on guard. Humph! The young man did not seem to have heard the warning and continued to attack. The golden sword light converged into a thumb-thick golden line, which quickly pierced towards Lin Xian's heart. Lin Xian activated the ancient armor on his body with all his might. At the same time, he quickly put on the bronze gauntlet on his left hand. However, before he could make a move, the situation changed drastically. The terrifying golden thread shattered into several pieces in the air. The young man's face was pale as he kept retreating. Lin Xian was astonished. Suddenly, he frowned as he felt an immense pressure. Whoosh! At some point in time, a figure had appeared between the two of them. Purple qi covered his entire body. It was as mysterious as the 9 heavens' purple qi. "How dare you ignore my warning?" The figure only said one sentence, and the sword mark youth opposite him began to vomit blood. Harmonious spirit realm. Lin Xian gasped. To have such power, it was most likely only a person in the 3 spirit realms. He put away the bronze gauntlets and stood there cautiously. The next moment, the purple figure looked at him. In an instant, his entire body trembled as if his soul had been struck. In his mind, the great dragon sword seal vibrated and turned into a roaring dragon. A warm current instantly flowed through his entire body, allowing him to recover from that uncomfortable state. The purple figure was surprised. He did not expect Lin Xian to be able to resist. Just as he was about to make a move, 2 light figures rushed out from afar. "Master, please calm down." 2 light figures, one red and one white, rushed forward and bowed to the purple figure. The 2 old men went forward and whispered to the purple figure. In the end, the purple figure snorted. "Since it was your first offense, I'll let you go this time. If there's a next time, you'll be killed without mercy." "Yes," Lin Xian said respectfully. On the other side, the sword mark youth nodded unwillingly. "Both of you have to compensate for the loss this time. In the cities of the Xia, no fighting is allowed except for specific battle stages." In the end, Lin Xian and the sword mark youth each paid a sum of spiritual stones and watched the master leave. The sword mark youth glared at Lin Xian with a gloomy expression. "Kid, consider yourself lucky. But you won't be so lucky next time. Next time I'll kill you with my sword." Lin Xian's voice was as cold as the autumn scar sword. He didn't pay any more attention to the young man. Instead, he thanked the 2 elders. "Young friend Lin, we agreed to your conditions. Why don't you take us back to the 1,000 Treasure Tower to rest?" "Thank you, seniors." Lin Xian did not refuse and left with the 2 old men. The sword mark youth also left with a gloomy face. The rest of the warriors also left one after another. However, they kept talking about the battle just now. The battle was too exciting. A warrior in the 2nd tier of the spiritual sea realm fought against a warrior in the 5th tier. Treasured weapons, sword intent, and all kinds of attacking methods were endless. It was an eye-opener for them. After these people left, a green-haired man walked over slowly. He felt the aura around him and laughed sinisterly. Then he blended into the darkness again. Lin Xian followed the 2 old men back to the 1,000 Treasure Tower and thanked them again. "Seniors, I have a request," Lin Xian said. "Oh, let's hear it. I wonder if the 1,000 Treasure Tower is heading to the snow-seeking sect. I want to go with you." "That's easy. We'll leave in a few days. You can come with us," the red-robed old man said. Lin Xian was overjoyed. After bidding farewell to the 2 old men, he returned to his room. After closing the door, Lin Xian let out a heavy sigh. Today's battle gave him a sense of crisis. Recently, he had been living more comfortably. After calming down, Lin Xian started to comprehend the Wind Emperor's sword and the Great Dragon Sword print. For the next few days, Lin Xian spent his time cultivating. During the day, he practiced and tried various sword skills. He learned many moves from the two inheritances and perfected them under the guidance of Wine Lord. When he was tired, he drank spirit wine and cultivated the art of longevity. At night, he followed Wine Lord to learn inscriptions. His days were spent very fully. This day was the 5th day since he came to the Thousand Treasure Tower. Today was the day the Thousand Treasure Tower set off. Lin Xian went out early to wait. He exchanged insights on comprehending the inheritances with Wine Lord while waiting. These days he comprehended the Wind Emperor's sword and the Great Dragon Sword print virtually whenever he had time and finally evolved several swift and fierce sword techniques. Among them, the most powerful was the Wind Thunder Dragon Stab. This move he fused the Wind Emperor's sword, the Great Dragon Sword print, and flying stars from outer heaven. Although it consumed a lot of spirit energy compared to flying stars from outer heaven, it saved a lot. Furthermore, according to his calculations, this move could break through the defense of a 5th-level Spirit Sea Realm martial artist. One had to know that just a few days ago, he was still unable to break through the Sword Mark Youth's defense. And now he had absolute confidence. Just as he was thinking, a group of people walked over from the opposite side. Among them were 2 old men in red and white, a middle-aged man, and 2 young men and women. Among them, that girl was someone Lin Xian had seen before. She was that beauty called Wei Wei. And that young man stared at Lin Xian with a flickering expression, a trace of disdain in his eyes. Chapter 163. You're the inscription master that old Qiu and old Bai found? The young man stared at Lin Xian. You don't seem to be much? Lin Xian sighed and ignored him. Instead, he greeted the 2 elders behind the young man. Greetings, seniors, Lin Xian said with a smile. Little friend Lin, you're here so early, the white-robed elder said with a smile. Kid you? The young man beside him was livid. He originally wanted to intimidate Lin Xian, but he didn't expect Lin Xian to ignore him. I'll let you know that not everyone can enter the Thousand Treasure Tower. The young man roared in his heart. Lin Xian sneered in his heart. He didn't want to fight with these people. What he wanted most now was to reach the snow-seeking sect. There's no time to lose. Let's go, the red-robed elder said. The few of them walked out of the Thousand Treasure Tower. Lin Xian looked at the 2 chariots in front and was a little surprised. The simple patterns were made of black gold and were the size of a house. The demonic beast pulling the chariot was even more extraordinary. It was actually a 4-headed blood dragon horse. This was a powerful 4th-tier demonic beast with the body of a horse and the tail of a dragon. Its entire body was blood red as if it could drip blood. Its blood was vigorous and comparable to a martial artist in the 4th layer of the spiritual ocean tier. This Thousand Treasure Tower is really generous, Lin Xian praised in his heart. This kind of thing wasn't something that an ordinary force could take out. And this was just the Thousand Treasure Tower in the ancient city. Lin Xian didn't dare to imagine how powerful the headquarters of the Thousand Treasure Tower was. 6 people, 2 chariots. The 2 elders and the middle-aged man sat in the front chariot, while Lin Xian and the 2 disciples of the Thousand Treasure Tower entered the other chariot. Pung! After a moment there was a sound. The bloody horned dragon horse let out a long neigh and dashed out. Speed was frightening. Lin Xian estimated that at this speed they could arrive in about 10 days. It was more than twice as fast as him traveling alone. Weiwei, this is senior brother Lu Yang, the beautiful woman in the chariot said. There was a lot of space inside. Lin Xian and the other 2 each took a side. Seeing the beauty take the initiative to speak, Lin Xian also cupped his fists and smiled. I am Lin Xian. It is my honor to meet the 2 of you. Humph. The young man snorted. Lin Xian's face darkened slightly. He had never met this Lu Yang fellow, but the latter had always wanted to make things difficult for him. Lin Xian ignored him. Instead, he closed his eyes and began to practice the Great Dragon Sword seal. These days, as Lin Xian continued to comprehend, he finally understood why the Great Dragon Sword was called an offensive saint art. Fusing everything, evolving everything. With a sword in hand, all techniques could be broken. Lin Xian could now use the mountain suppressing hand and lion's roar with his longsword, and its power was even stronger than the original version. Coupled with the effect of sword intent, his attack power had increased by leaps and bounds. Seeing Lin Xian closing his eyes, Lu Yang glared at him. He was a disciple of the Myriad Treasure Tower and a first-grade inscription master. He was a strong candidate to participate in the inscription tower. Just a few days ago, he heard that a kid suddenly joined the Myriad Treasure Tower and wanted to participate in the inscription tower competition. This was a threat to his position. The number of people participating in the inscription tower was limited. There would be a preliminary selection at the end, and only the winner could enter. But this kid in front of him could participate directly. How could he not be angry? I want to see what ability you have. Lu Yang clenched his fists. However, Lin Xian never gave him a chance. After getting on the carriage, Lin Xian began to meditate with his eyes closed, comprehending the cultivation method. He did not have the intention to pay attention to the two at all. Lu Yang gnashed his teeth in hatred, but there was nothing he could do. He could not directly interrupt Lin Xian. If he did, the elders would not forgive him. The carriage moved forward quickly as if it was flying. The next day, Lin Xian opened his eyes. He had encountered a bottleneck, and it could not be solved by comprehending. Putting down the comprehension of the great dragon sword seal, he took out a cup of spirit wine and drank it, then began to cultivate the art of longevity. A wisp of wine fragrance spread out and floated in the carriage. Vivian and Lu Yang were both inscription masters. After feeling this wine fragrance, their faces changed in shock. Such rich spirit qi. This spirit wine must be of high grade. Vivian blinked her big eyes and looked at Lin Xian curiously. At the side, Lu Yang's eyes became even more gloomy. How could this kid have such spirit wine? He could not figure it out and was a little mad. After 2 hours, Lin Xian opened his eyes. The spirit qi in his body was abundant, and he would soon break through to the 3rd level of the spiritual sea realm. At that time, even if he met the Swordmark youth, he had absolute confidence to defeat him. Junior brother Lin, your spirit wine must be of high grade. You didn't refine it yourself, right? Vivian asked with a smile. How could it be? This was refined by my master. Lin Xian shook his head. Since everyone is free, why don't we test what we have learned together? Lu Yang saw the opportunity and said hurriedly. Sure, I happen to have some doubts recently, Vivian said seriously. Junior brother Lin, what about you? Lu Yang asked. Because Lin Xian was the youngest, both of them called him junior brother. Lin Xian smiled lightly. Sure. Lu Yang was overjoyed. As long as Lin Xian dared to agree, he was confident that he could humiliate Lin Xian. In his opinion, Lin Xian was just a kid, what could he know? Lin Xian sneered in his heart. He naturally knew Lu Yang's intention, but he was fearless. After practicing for so long, he could take this opportunity to test it out. Then the 3 of them began to discuss from the beginning of the herb's pharmacology to the effects and methods. Lin Xian learned inscription knowledge from Wine Lord, so this content was not difficult for him. On the contrary, he could often come up with some unique ideas, which broadened the horizons of the other 2. Vivian's face was flushed red with excitement. She had solved all the problems that had plagued her for days. Lu Yang's face was gloomy. Not only did he not make things difficult for Lin Xian, but he also could not answer some of the questions. The corner of his mouth twitched slightly. Lu Yang's heart went crazy. Humph! You talk so nicely, who doesn't know these theories? The key to becoming an inscription master is refining. Do you dare to compete? Lu Yang was furious. He swore that he would humiliate Lin Xian. He guessed that Lin Xian must have a good master to be able to learn such knowledge. However, Lu Yang was not willing to admit defeat. He had the advantage of age. In terms of refining techniques and proficiency, Lin Xian was definitely inferior to him. Sure. Lin Xian's expression was still indifferent, not anxious or impatient. Keep pretending. I'll make you cry in a moment. Lu Yang sneered in his heart. His finger swayed and drew an arc in the air. A shining inscription appeared in the air. The whole process was smooth and there was not a single pause. Good technique. Lin Xian smiled. It seemed that Lu Yang had some skills. He was not a talkative person. Lin Xian immediately made his move. His finger danced in the air. 3 vortex runes appeared in the air, forming the shape of a triangle. It was like 3 blooming lotus flowers. 3 flowers gathering spirit. Lu Yang exclaimed. Lu Yang's eyes were filled with shock. His lips trembled and he could not speak. The 3 lotus-shaped inscriptions rotated in the air, forming a spiritual vortex. Chapter 164. The old man in the red robe opened his eyes in shock. He slowly spread out his soul power to check the situation behind him. When he saw the 3 flowers gathering spirit drawn by Lin Xian, his eyelids twitched fiercely. This kid is really surprising. The old man in the red robe was full of expectations for the upcoming battle of the inscription tower. In the carriage, Lu Yang kept pinching his thigh to wake himself up from his dream. This can't be real. This can't be real. However, reality was like a basin of cold water that woke him up. Finally, Lu Yang let out a heavy sigh. You win. He finally knew why Lin Xian could directly participate in the inscription tower competition. His method was way beyond theirs. Junior brother Lin, can I ask you a question? Vivian blinked her big eyes and asked. Of course, senior brother Lu Yang can also participate, Lin Xian said lightly. He was not a narrow-minded person. Lu Yang was taken aback. He gave Lin Xian a deep look. Then the two began to ask all their questions. Lin Xian answered them one by one in great detail. Lu Yang was shocked. He thought that Lin Xian was just joking. He did not expect that Lin Xian would help them so wholeheartedly. This made him feel a little embarrassed. At this time the carriage slowed down. Lin Xian opened the window and looked out. Outside, the wind and snow were drifting. The snow was wrapped in silver, and the goose feather-like snow fell from the sky. As far as the eye could see, the whole world seemed to have turned into a monotonous white. We have entered the snow province. Lu Yang looked out of the window and said. On the snowy ground, the carriage might be slower. This was relative. Lin Xian estimated that even this speed was faster than him traveling alone. Putting down the curtain, Lin Xian entered the state of cultivation again. Half a day later, the carriage stopped completely. We will rest for the night and continue tomorrow. The old man in the red robe and the other 2 got off the carriage and looked forward. Lin Xian and the other 2 got off the carriage and suddenly felt a cold wind blowing in their faces. It was as if they were going to be frozen into ice. Fortunately, I'm wearing a bearskin coat. Otherwise, I would have to use my spiritual energy to protect my body. Lin Xian exclaimed in his heart as he felt the cold air between heaven and earth. Everyone found a place to shelter from the wind and snow, and then pulled the carriage over. Wang! The red-robed old man's large hand trembled, forming a formation that enveloped everyone. Suddenly, the cold wind and snow were all blocked outside. The formation was not supported by manpower. The red-robed old man only needed to place some mid-grade spirit stones, and the formation would automatically defend itself. Everyone tidied up the food and prepared to eat. Most of these people were inscriptionists, so they naturally would not mistreat themselves. The middle-aged man flicked his finger, and a furnace appeared. 2 firebirds were engraved on the furnace, and they were surrounded by raging flames as if they were alive. Bang! The half-meter-tall furnace fell to the ground, causing the earth to tremble. A wave of heat spread out and everyone felt much warmer. Lu Yang and Vivian began to take out the cut demon beast meat and roast it on the stove. The sky gradually darkened, and the snowstorm outside grew heavier. Moreover, the snow at night was not white, but blue like crystals. Lin Xian and the others began to rest and busy themselves with their own things. Suddenly, everyone opened their eyes. Among them, the white-robed old man and the middle-aged man were not inscriptionists, but their cultivation was the highest, reaching the 7th sky of the spiritual sea realm. The rest of the people were all spiritual tattooists with powerful soul power. At this moment, all of them frowned. This was because they could sense a powerful force approaching them at a rapid speed. Could it be him? Lin Xian frowned, and the figure of the green-haired man appeared in his mind. No, there is no evil aura. He quickly denied it. Circulating his soul power, Lin Xian used purple spiritual eyes and looked into the distance. Soon his pupils shrank and he stood up. Wolf pack. Lin Xian took a deep breath. The others also sensed it and they were all shocked. Among them, the white-robed old man said in a deep voice, "This is the Ice Wolves bandits from the Snow Province. They are extremely cruel. You must be careful. Can't we escape with the blood dragon carriage? Lu Yang's voice was trembling. On the snow, nothing can outrun the snow wolves. The white-robed old man shook his head. Figures appeared beside them. It was a pack of snow wolves. Each of them was more than 2 meters long, and their green eyes were like 2 ghost fires that kept jumping. Behind them, there were more snow wolves approaching, but there were people sitting on those wolves. One by one, huge burly men in beast-skin coats stared coldly at Lin Xian and the others with ferocious expressions. We are from the 1,000 Treasure Tower. May I know why you are here? The middle-aged man stood out and said in a deep voice. Haha. So it's a friend from the 1,000 Treasure Tower. You must know the rules of the Ice Wolves bandits. Leave the horses, money, treasures, and women. The rest can get lost. This group of burly men was very arrogant and did not give face to the 1,000 Treasure Tower. This was a group of lunatics who did not give face to anyone. Even the disciples of the snow-seeking sect would still rob them. So there is no room for discussion? The middle-aged man's voice gradually turned cold. They were from the 1,000 Treasure Tower. No one dared to provoke them outside, so how could they endure this kind of humiliation? There is nothing to discuss. Brothers, charge. With a command, countless snow wolves pounced. The defensive array buzzed and trembled non-stop. Ripples appeared in the surroundings, and it looked like it was about to shatter. Gather together, don't scatter. Everyone break through together. The white-robed old man said in a deep voice. Rumble, the defensive array shattered, and the wolf bandits rushed in. Humph! The middle-aged man attacked mercilessly. An earthy yellow palm that was dozens of meters tall pushed out horizontally. Everywhere it passed, countless blood wolves and bandits turned into a bloody mist. The power of a martial artist at the 7th layer of the spiritual sea realm was extremely terrifying. Let me fight you. An angry voice sounded from behind the wolf bandits. A huge burly man suddenly jumped up, and his long saber slashed down like a rainbow. The saber light that was dozens of meters long cut through the sky and slashed down at the crowd. Air waves rolled on both sides, and the cold wind blew in reverse, whistling non-stop. The middle-aged man threw out a punch to welcome the resplendent saber light, and engaged in a fierce battle with the wolf bandit leader. Hee, who wants to play with me? A sinister voice sounded, and another wolf bandit at the 7th layer of the spiritual sea realm walked out, holding a blue long whip in his hand and laughing cruelly. The white-robed old man gave some instructions to the crowd, and then went forward. The battle between 4 martial artists at the 7th layer of the spiritual sea realm was shocking. Just the aftermath of the battle made everyone's heart tremble. Lin Xian and the rest kept retreating. They were already surrounded. Go! With the wolf bandits' command, countless snow wolves pounced forward. Break through them. The crowd didn't want to be separated, but there were too many snow wolves, and they were pushed apart in an instant. Lin Xian pulled out the autumn scar sword and attacked first. He used the phantom thunder steps and shuttled through the wolf pack, thrusting out his long sword continuously. Every sword took the life of a snow wolf. Every sword was fatal and accurate. Soon dozens of snow wolves fell beside him, and blood dyed the ground red. Kid, you're looking for death. Chapter 165. The newcomer was very ferocious. His body was covered in flames, and his spirit energy condensed into a dragon, charging towards Lin Xian. The wild blade slashed down, and the blade light was like starlight, shining in the air. A martial artist in the 4th sky of the spiritual ocean realm. Little friend Lin, be careful. In the distance, the red-robed elder saw this scene and wanted to rush over to help. However, his opponent was very strong, holding the red-robed elder back. Vivian and Lu Yang were also very anxious, but they were also surrounded by the wolf bandits and couldn't get away for a while. Lin Xian's body was unpredictable, and he quickly dodged the star-like blade light. Don't worry, I can handle it. He transmitted his voice to everyone. Hee kid. You seem to be very important. The bald man sneered. If I kill you, I wonder how sad they will be? This group of wolf bandits was very cruel, and they took pleasure in killing people. Lin Xian had no sympathy for such people. His eyes became sharp, and his body flashed, creating dozens of illusions. This was the power of the phantom thunder steps when he mastered it. Each of the illusions could be passed off as real, and people couldn't tell the real from the fake. The second sky of the spiritual ocean realm too weak. Die. The bald man swung his blade, and the blade light that was dozens of meters long slashed out, covering all the illusions around him. Pung 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 pung. With one slash, more than half of the illusions were destroyed. Petty tricks, watch how I kill you with one slash. The bald man laughed loudly. Is that so? A faint voice came from behind the bald man. What? The bald man was shocked. He didn't see when Lin Xian ran behind him. Blade Ring Mountain. The bald man gritted his teeth and roared. Countless streams of saber chi shot out from his body, instantly forming a hazy mountain that stood behind him. At the same time, he quickly turned his body, wanting to cut Lin Xian under his blade. Puff! The bald man was just about to move, but his body suddenly stiffened. The blade that was as cold as autumn water pierced his heart, causing blood to splatter. No, impossible, how could you break through my defense? The bald man's voice became softer and softer. Finally, his head tilted and he fell down. Until his death, he still didn't believe that a martial artist at the second sky of the spiritual ocean realm could break through his defense. The power of the wind lightning spike is greater than I imagined. Lin Xian took off the bald man's storage ring and charged into the pack of wolves once again. Ower! Wolf howls rang out, sounding desolate. Everyone turned around and saw the bald man lying in a pool of blood. What? Guang is dead. Who killed him? The group of wolf bandits fell into a frenzy as they all looked at Lin Xian. It's you. A martial artist in the second sky of the spiritual ocean realm. How is it possible? Countless wolf bandits shouted crazily. In the distance, Lu Yang and Vivian also exclaimed in surprise. They looked at Lin Xian as if they were looking at a monster. Brat, how dare you kill a member of our Ice Wolf regiment? Die! A strong man with 2 hammers in his hands was riding a snow wolf as he quickly rushed over. The green wind under Lin Xian's feet spun, and his body turned into a gust of wind drifting around. His footwork was unconstrained, and there was no pattern to it. Ding! 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 A series of sparks flew out, followed by the dense sound of metal clashing. Countless sword shadows appeared in front of the strong man, forming a sword curtain. Shocked, he used his hammers to protect himself. At the same time, the snow wolf he was riding on launched an attack. Whoosh! Whoosh! Its sharp claws were waving, tearing the air apart as it clawed at Lin Xian. Puff! A phantom was clawed and exploded, turning into spiritual power and disappearing. Lin Xian's real body had already retreated to the back. With a shake of his wrist, several 10-meter-long sword chi shot out. Golden snake travel. This was the sword technique used by the sword mark youth, and now it was used by Lin Xian. After comprehending the great dragon sword print, Lin Xian's attacks were varied. The sword chi in the air turned into giant pythons, pouncing forward. Ower! The snow wolf that the strong man was riding on roared, spitting out a cloud of icy mist, which was extremely cold. The golden snake formed by the sword chi clashed with the mist, causing an explosion. The horrifying energy spread out in all directions. In the distance, Vivian screamed. Her sleeve had been cut open. The wolf bandit that she was fighting against was a perverted man. His beady eyes were staring at Vivian's body. Little beauty, I will let you have your fill in a bit. Ha ha ha. The surrounding wolf bandits also laughed maniacally. Shoo! He waved the red spiritual whip in his hand again, drawing a weird arc in the air and tearing Vivian's dress apart. Vivian was terrified. She screamed and kept retreating. Kid, all of you have to die. The strong man stared at Lin Xian and grinned. Humph! Lin Xian snorted. His sword intent surged, and the aura on his body became extremely cold. Shoo! His body turned into a beam of lightning, flying out quickly and approaching the strong man instantly. The autumn scar sword was pulled out quickly, and a dragon's roar was heard. Who? The golden sword light flashed, lighting up half of the sky. Who? Lin Xian flashed his body, passing through the strong man and running toward Vivian. Behind him, the strong man raised his hammers in the air, and his pupils enlarged. Suddenly, a trail of blood appeared in between his eyebrows. Then blood started to pour out. Boom! His entire body, along with the snow wolf that he was sitting on, died instantly. His body was split in half and he fell to the ground. Wind style. The air moved, and a beam of sword light suddenly flew out from behind the perverted man. The perverted man who was flirting with Vivian suddenly changed his expression. He released his spirit power, forming a spirit power armor. Boom! The sword light landed on the armor, tearing open a horrifying crack. You can't break it. Before he could finish, the sword light flashed again. The golden sword light surged and attacked like lightning. Pooh! The perverted man's head flew into the air and was thrown far away. The surrounding wolf bandits all backed off crazily. Their eyes were filled with fear. Thank you, Vivian said while trembling. Here. Lin Xian took off his white bear coat and threw it to Vivian. Then he turned around and roared at the wolf pack that was running toward him. Mad lion roar. The sound wave vibrated, spreading out quickly with Lin Xian as the center. Within the formless sound wave, there was a sharp sword intent, forming a horrifying killing move. Pooh! 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 All the snow wolves and wolf bandits that came in contact with the sound wave had their bodies split open, as if they had been pierced by thousands of swords. However, it was not over yet. Lin Xian flashed again and arrived near Lu Yang. Junior brother Lin. Lu Yang was overjoyed. He had seen all of Lin Xian's attacks. As long as Lin Xian made a move, he would be able to keep his life. Shoo! Lin Xian's body flashed as he arrived beside Lu Yang and pulled out his autumn scar sword. Wind Thunder Sword Wave. This move was a sword skill that he had created by imitating the mad lion roar. Originally, with his strength, he would not be able to create a sword skill. However, with the Great Dragon Sword Seal, everything became possible. With Lin Xian as the center, a ring-shaped sword pattern rippled in all directions. Ripples appeared in the air, spreading out like water ripples. From afar it looked like a golden ripple. Everything that came in contact with it was cut in half. As the sword was waved out, silence reigned. Chapter 166. Lin Xian brought Lu Yang back to Wei Wei's side, and then he looked at the battlefield in the distance. Two of the battles were between martial artists at the 7th level of the spiritual ocean realm, and he could not get close to them. The other one was where the Elder in Red was fighting. He was fighting against 3 martial artists at the 5th level of the spiritual ocean realm, and the battle was extremely intense. Some of the snow wolves were fighting against the 2 bloody dragon horses, while the rest of the bandits were rushing towards Lin Xian and the others. Save the bloody dragon horses first, then help the Elder in Red. Lin Xian made up his mind. Holding the autumn scar sword, he turned into a flash of lightning and rushed up. At the same time, at the border of the snow province, a blue-haired man appeared out of nowhere. He slightly closed his eyes as if he was sensing something. After a while, he suddenly opened his eyes, and a wicked smile appeared on his face. His body shook, and the blue-haired man disappeared from where he was standing. On the snowy land, the cold wind was blowing. Lin Xian's body was like a ghost as he shuttled between the snow wolves and the bandits. The long sword in his hand was stabbing out at an even faster speed. Pooh! Pooh! Blood splashed everywhere, and bodies fell down one after another. The bandits backed off in fear. That seemingly random sword would take away a life every time. This was no longer a battle but a harvest. Yes, a harvest. Lin Xian was like a harvester, harvesting their lives mercilessly. These people all had the urge to curse in their minds. They were the bandits, okay? But now their identities seemed to have been switched. The prey had become the killer, and they could only run. Wind-splitting movement. The sword light shone, and the air seemed to have been torn apart. The dozens of people in front of him were torn apart by this power, turning into minced meat. Lin Xian came to the bloody dragon horse and killed the snow wolves around it. The 2 bloody dragon horses were covered in blood, with horrifying wounds on their bodies. One of them could not hold on any longer, and was about to die. Lin Xian sighed, and threw all the demon crystals in the snow wolves' bodies to them. Then his body shook, and he ran towards the Elder in Red. You are looking for death. The 3 men besieging the red-robed old man had already noticed Lin Xian's existence, but in their opinion, killing the red-robed old man was more important. And now Lin Xian was actually rushing towards them. How could these people not be angry? Die, ant! A one-eyed man wielding a long spear turned around and thrust his spear at Lin Xian. The void trembled and a millstone-thick spear light trembled, thrusting towards Lin Xian. This one-eyed man's strength had reached the peak of the 4th layer of the spiritual ocean tier, which was similar to the young man of sword mark. If it were a few days ago, Lin Xian might not even have been able to break through the defense. But now he was confident that he could kill this person. The spiritual energy in his body surged, and Lin Xian's speed suddenly exploded as he flew to the side. Boom! The thick spear light pierced through the ground, forming a terrifying black hole in the ice. Lin Xian's eyes flickered as his purple spirit eyes continued to observe. At the same time his sword will gushed out, raising his combat strength to the maximum. Sword will. The one-eyed man was shocked. No wonder you could kill so many people. You're a genius who comprehended sword will. Then all the more I can't let you live in this world. The one-eyed man gave up on the red-robed old man and rushed towards Lin Xian. After knowing Lin Xian's strength, the red-robed old man wasn't too worried. He attacked the 2 people in front of him with all his strength. But when Vivian and Lu Yang saw this scene, their little hearts trembled. That was a martial artist close to the 5th layer of the spiritual ocean tier. Could Lin Xian really deal with him? The 2 couldn't help, so they could only watch nervously from afar. Sweep the world. The one-eyed man wielded his spear with one hand and swept it out. The blue spear light flickered, forming a violent storm. Whoosh! Whoosh! Wherever it passed, a thick layer of frost formed, emitting a terrifying chill. Ice attribute. Lin Xian's pupils shrank as he kept retreating. In this world of ice and snow, ice attribute martial artists could definitely explode with super powerful battle power. No wonder this person is only at the 4th layer of the spiritual ocean tier, and can participate in the attack on the red-robed old man. Lin Xian's face was serious. The red-robed old man was at the 6th layer of the spiritual ocean tier. Kid, in this place my attack power is equivalent to a martial artist at the 5th layer of the spiritual ocean tier. You can die in peace. Lin Xian didn't dare to be careless. This one-eyed man's strength was beyond his expectations. Ice attribute martial artists had the ability to slow down and cause frostbite. If he was hit, it would only get worse. Thinking of this, his whole body released golden lightning, as if he was the god of thunder. It's useless. The one-eyed man sneered as the long spear in his hand kept stabbing. Wong! 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 Every spear was filled with the power of ice, resonating with the surrounding heaven and earth. The cold air in the surroundings quickly condensed and gathered on the spear light, forming a huge ice pillar. Boom! Lin Xian flicked his sword upwards. The autumn scar sword was like a golden lightning, cutting the huge ice pillar in half. As expected of the sword intent, it is indeed sharp. The one-eyed man sneered as his left hand grasped in the air. Piercing ice spear. The cold air on the ground surged and formed a blue ice spear under Lin Xian's feet, stabbing out abruptly. Lin Xian's body flashed, leaving behind a shadow while his real body escaped into the distance. Shoo! 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 After the ice spear pierced through Lin Xian's shadow, it didn't stop there. Instead it shot out like an arrow. At the same time, the one-eyed man stomped his feet, causing the whole ice surface to shake. Welcome to the ice prison. Boom! Boom! The ice surface shattered as 2 huge hands formed by ice grabbed onto Lin Xian's feet. The horrifying cold air rushed into his body. Cut! Hundreds of sword chi shot out from Lin Xian's body, tearing the ice apart. He stabbed out with his sword, clashing right onto the tip of the ice spear. With a twist of his wrist, the autumn scar sword formed a whirlpool, shattering the ice spear. Kid, you're pretty good. Why don't you join our ice snow group? The one-eyed man yelled. Sorry, I'm not interested. Lin Xian's pupils turned purple. This was the sign of his purple spirit eyes being pushed to the extreme. What last words do you have? Say them all. What? The one-eyed man froze for a moment before laughing out loud. Kid, is your brain frozen? You can't even get close to me in this world of ice and snow. Not to mention killing me. The one-eyed man's face was full of disdain. Is that so? Lin Xian's lips curled up. Piercing ice spear. You think you can just shout and it will appear? This is the martial skill of an ice elemental warrior. The one-eyed man was even more disdainful. He even thought that Lin Xian was an idiot. However, in the next moment his face changed drastically. A dangerous aura came from under his feet, as if it was going to tear the ground apart. Impossible! The one-eyed man almost roared out. Although he didn't believe it, he still retreated quickly. In the distance, Vivian and Lu Yong were stunned. Could it be that Lin Xian really knew ice elemental martial arts? But he was obviously a thunder elemental warrior. The two of them were very confused, but they could only watch more carefully. Seeing the one-eyed man retreat, Lin Xian smiled. "Welcome to the Ice Snow Prison." These words were exactly the same as what the one-eyed man said. Even the tone was the same. "Kid, you're looking for death. Do you believe that I won't tear you apart?" The one-eyed man was very angry. He thought that Lin Xian was playing with him. However, he soon realized that he was wrong. Chapter 167. Two large golden hands reached out from the ice and firmly grabbed the one-eyed man's feet. This scene was very familiar. Not long ago, the one-eyed man had used the same martial art on Lin Xian. But now Lin Xian had returned it to him untouched. Impossible! This is impossible! How can you know an ice element martial art? The one-eyed man yelled crazily with a trace of madness in his eyes. Ice element martial art? In the distance, Lu Yong and Wei Wei both had strange expressions. Junior brother Lin is using thunder. Why did that man say it was an ice element martial art? Could it be that the man was scared? The two were confused. Lu Yong looked at the one-eyed man carefully, and his pupils suddenly shrank. Look at his eyes. Lu Yong whispered to Wei Wei. Wei Wei looked up and also yelled out. The one-eyed man's undamaged eye was now purple, as if it was a dream or an illusion. Is this a mental illusion? Lu Yong took a deep breath. How powerful is junior brother Lin's soul power? In the distance on the battlefield, the corners of Lin Xian's mouth curled up slightly. He had indeed used lightning to simulate what had just happened. However, he secretly used his purple spirit eyes to hypnotize the one-eyed man with illusions. In the one-eyed man's eyes, the ice spear was blue, and the spiritual hands that trapped him were also ice element martial arts. He was completely lost in the illusion. Boom! Lin Xian stomped his foot on the ground and dashed forward. In a flash, he arrived in front of the one-eyed man and pulled out the autumn scar sword. One-eyed! A loud yell came from behind. It was like thunder exploding in the air. The one-eyed man's body shook, and he recovered from the illusion. At this moment, a sword light flashed and enveloped him. As an ice element martial artist, the one-eyed man exploded with a powerful force at the end. A huge ice wall rose from the ground and blocked in front of him. At the same time, rows of ice spikes shot towards Lin Xian. Chi! Chi! The sword light flashed and cut everything in half. The one-eyed man retreated as fast as he could, but he was still one step too slow. His left arm was cut off by the sword Chi, and blood flowed out. Golden electric arcs exploded at the wound, producing a terrifying destructive power. Freeze! The one-eyed man crazily circulated his spirit energy and sealed half of his body. A layer of blue ice continued to spread and froze the wound. It continued to extend and form an ice soul left hand. Brat, I'm going to tear you to shreds. No one can save you. The one-eyed man's voice was cold, and his eyes were like a demon's. The ice around him shattered, turning into pieces of icicles that floated around him. He was infuriated to the extreme. The one-eyed man had never suffered such a loss before, and his opponent was actually only a brat at the second layer of the spiritual ocean realm. You think you still have a chance to live? Lin Xian sneered, the purple light in his eyes flashing again. An invisible soul power rushed out and directly attacked the one-eyed man's soul. For a moment, the one-eyed man held his head and screamed. Whoosh! The autumn scar sword slashed out once again. The air was sliced open as the sword Chi of wind and thunder turned into a long dragon, piercing towards the one-eyed man's heart. Puff! The sharp edge of the sword sliced through the spirit energy armor, sliced open the inner armor, and pierced into his heart. Plop! The cold body fell down. Lin Xian waved his hand and took away the one-eyed man's storage ring. In the distance, Lu Yong and Wei Wei were shocked. The two bandits that were attacking the red-robed elder roared in anger. Even the martial artists at the seventh layer of the spiritual ocean realm in the distance noticed the situation here. Boom! One of the bandits at the 7th layer of the spiritual ocean realm threw out a blade light at Lin Xian. The blade chi swept across the sky. The 10-meter-long blade chi was like a long rainbow as it slashed down. Lin Xian's pupils shrank as he quickly ran away. Rumble. As the blade chi fell, a horrifying crack appeared on the ground, spreading into the distance. Lin Xian's face was a bit pale. Although he didn't touch the blade chi, the wind brought about by it still made his chest feel stuffy. This was the power of the 7th layer of the spiritual ocean realm. It was far from what a 4th or 5th layer martial artist could compare to. Fortunately, the bandit leader only slashed out once before he was entangled by the middle-aged man from the 1,000 Treasures Tower, unable to attack again. Lin Xian let out a sigh of relief. He still couldn't resist a martial artist at the 7th layer of the spiritual ocean realm. However, before he could relax, a strong sense of danger surged in his heart again. It was as if a cold and greedy gaze appeared behind him. Lin Xian's scalp went numb, and all the muscles in his body tightened. He spread out his soul power and looked around cautiously. Needless to say, the one who could give him this feeling was definitely the mysterious green-haired man. As expected, in the distant horizon, a figure quickly flew over. The snow on the ground quickly scattered to the sides, and a deep trench appeared on the ice, spreading towards Lin Xian. Who? In a moment, the green-haired man arrived nearby. A cold and dark aura quickly spread out in all directions, making people tremble uncontrollably. Pung pung pung. The two sides who were fighting stopped and looked at the green-haired man warily. Lin Xian's body stiffened. He secretly circulated his spirit power to the extreme, and at the same time, prepared the bronze gauntlet and the yellowed talisman treasure. As long as the situation was not right, he would immediately attack with all his strength. The feeling the green-haired man gave him was even more terrifying than a martial artist at the 7th layer of the spiritual ocean realm. This was not the suppression of spirit power, but the throbbing of the soul. The green-haired man took a deep look at Lin Xian, and his green eyes emitted light. He didn't attack immediately, but picked up the one-eyed man's corpse on the ground. Gotcha! It was about to take a bite out of the one-eyed man's corpse, sucking it non-stop. In the blink of an eye, the blood essence in the one-eyed man's body was quickly drained, and he finally became a dry corpse. Plop! The green-haired man threw the one-eyed man aside, and then looked for the corpse on the ground again. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. The three experts from the 1,000 Treasures Tower came to Lin Xian's side and protected him. Lu Yang and Wei Wei also ran over, looking at the green-haired man with fear. Who? 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 The green-haired man's hair shook, and his 3,000 strands of hair quickly became thick and long, spreading out in all directions. The tail end of the hair transformed into green snakes, which were ferocious and terrifying, and pounced on the corpse on the ground. Puff! Puff! The sky full of green hair fluttered, and all of them pierced into the surrounding corpses, and began to crazily absorb the blood essence. How dare you touch the corpse of my ice wolf pack? You're courting death. The two wolf bandit leaders at the 7th layer of the spiritual ocean realm were furious and attacked one after another. A saber light that was dozens of meters long quickly slashed out, cutting the air into two halves. The other person waved his spirit whip, which turned into a dragon in the air, and pounced over with bared fangs and brandished claws. The green-haired man smiled cruelly and reached out with both hands. Two green lights flickered, condensing into a bronze coffin in the air, suppressing the surroundings. Boom! 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 The three energies collided, and a shocking destructive aura erupted. A green-black mushroom cloud rose, followed by a terrifying energy ripple that spread out in all directions. Retreat! The middle-aged man and the white-robed elder took Lin Xian and the others, turned into a bolt of lightning, and quickly retreated. Whoosh! Chapter 168. The sky full of black strands rushed towards Lin Xian, piercing through the air. The middle-aged man and the white-robed old man attacked together, releasing a vast amount of energy to block the black strands. Pooh! 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 Like a piece of cloth being torn apart, the protective light screen was penetrated. The 3,000 strands of black strands turned into sharp swords, piercing straight towards them. Seniors, I need to borrow your power. At the critical moment, Lin Xian shouted. The ancient armor on his body shone brightly, and an illusory shadow appeared with complicated inscriptions on it. The middle-aged man and the white-robed old man looked at Lin Xian in surprise, then sent their spirit power into the shadow of the armor. Wang, receiving the power of 2 martial artists in the 7th layer of the spiritual ocean realm. The ancient armor shone brightly. The materialized shadow spread out continuously, finally forming a bell-shaped defense, enveloping everyone. Clang! 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 The black strands of black swords clashed against the bell-shaped protective shadow, letting out a clang. Although they didn't penetrate the bell-shaped defense, the huge impact still sent everyone flying far away. We're saved. The few of them landed on the ground, feeling as if they had just survived a disaster. Lin Xian frowned deeply. The blue-haired man's power was beyond his imagination. If he acted alone this time, it would be dangerous. However, before Lin Xian and the others could relax, the 3,000 strands of black strands turned into spirit snakes again. Up in the sky, down on the ground from all directions, they pounced towards Lin Xian and the others. They had no choice but to work together and form the bell-shaped defense again. Suddenly, Lin Xian's heart skipped a beat. He sensed that the mysterious green egg in his storage ring was shaking more and more violently. Is it going to crack open? Lin Xian was puzzled. Little Xian, I have a way to suppress that person, but it's too dangerous, Wine Lord transmitted. No matter what, we have to try. Lin Xian gritted his teeth. He didn't want to live in danger all the time. With a decision made, Lin Xian prepared to act. Seniors, you all go first. Lin Xian instructed, then rushed forward. His speed reached extreme speed, leaving a trail of light in the air. Quickly taking out the green egg, Lin Xian held it in his arms. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The 3,000 strands of black strands felt the aura of the green egg and turned into a square midway, abandoning Thousand Treasure Tower and the others, all rushing towards Lin Xian. The expressions of the white-robed elder and company changed. They saw that Lin Xian was about to be pierced, but there was nothing they could do. Phantom Thunderstep. Lin Xian shouted in a low voice as his body turned into hundreds of light shadows and scattered in all directions. For a moment, the sky and the ground were filled with Lin Xian's illusions. Pu. Of the black strands of the black strands of the 3 of God. Lin Xian's true body quickly approached the azure-haired man. He wanted to use Lord Alcohol's strength to seal the azure-haired man. 500 meters, 300 meters, 100 meters. Lin Xian's figure continued to sway, and finally came to a place only 10 meters away from the green-haired man. A black vortex appeared out of thin air in front of him, spinning rapidly, emitting a devouring force. At this time, the green egg in Lin Xian's arms made a cracking sound. The eggshell cracked open and a furry little thing came out. It was only the size of a palm, covered in snow-white fur and curled up. A cold wind blew, and the little thing opened its eyes in a daze. Its big black eyes were like black gemstones shining brightly. Wuji! Wuji! The little thing called out to the 2 of them in a daze, then grabbed Lin Xian's clothes and crawled. Lin Xian was stunned, and so was the green-haired man. Inside the mysterious small sword, Wine Lord exclaimed softly and stopped moving. The black vortex in front of him became smaller and smaller, and finally disappeared in the air. Lin Xian stared blankly at the palm-sized monkey in his arms, and his brain short-circuited. A monkey can appear from the green egg? Lin Xian realized that his outlook on life had collapsed. The snow-white monkey stuck closely to Lin Xian, and it made woogie-woogie sounds. It was very cute. Looking at the snow-white monkey, Lin Xian thought of the few monkeys that had given him the green egg. These monkeys looked similar, but Lin Xian's was smaller. Rubbing his head, Lin Xian looked cautiously at the green-haired man in front of him. The green-haired man looked at the snow-white monkey with a trace of doubt on his face, but more than that, there was fear. He's afraid of this monkey? Lin Xian was very surprised. The snow-white monkey seemed to feel the green-haired man's gaze, and it slowly turned its head. One of its claws grabbed Lin Xian's clothes, and the other grabbed its eyelids, and made a face at the green-haired man. Whoosh! A green light flashed, bringing with it a gust of wind. The green-haired man in front of him seemed to have seen something terrifying, and immediately ran away. That kind of speed made one stunned. Lin Xian took a deep breath, and stared blankly at the little thing in his arms. All along, He thought that the green-haired man saw the green egg as life essence and wanted to seize it. But today's situation made him change his mind. The green-haired man was scared away. This kind of thing was too inconceivable. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Figures quickly rushed over from afar. Lin Xian put away the broken eggshell and then let out a sigh of relief. "Are you all right?" the red-robed old man and the others asked with concern. Lin Xian shook his head. "Thank you seniors for your concern, I'm fine." "Where's that person?" Lu Yang asked with lingering fear. "Gone." Lin Xian let out a breath and said fiercely. Hearing this, they all let out a sigh of relief. Among them, the middle-aged man and the white-robed old man looked to the side. There, 2 wolf bandit leaders in the 7th layer of the spiritual ocean tier stood in a sorry state, with wounds of various sizes on their bodies. Around them, there were countless corpses, some of which had already dried up. The 2 wolf bandits glared at Lin Xian and the others, and then quickly left. The cold wind whistled and snow fell. The surroundings became silent again. There was a faint smell of blood in the air, reminding everyone of what had just happened. "Wuji! Wuji!" The snow-white little monkey hung on Lin Xian's body, crying out pitifully. "What a cute little monkey!" Vivian saw it, and the fear in her heart was forgotten. "Can I hug it?" Vivian's eyes shone with stars. Lin Xian was stunned and nodded numbly. Vivian picked up the little monkey, and a smile appeared on her face. "Old Bai, what should we do now?" Lu Yang asked. They couldn't do it here. The smell of blood would attract some demonic beasts in the ice field. Everyone came to the front of the chariot and found that the injured bloody dragon horse was already dead. The other one was kneeling on the ground, whining. "Without the bloody dragon horse, our speed will be much slower," the red-robed old man said with a frown. "If you want to find someone to pull the chariot, I might have a way." Lin Xian touched his chin and said. Everyone looked at him. Now no one could ignore Lin Xian's opinion. His previous performance was too amazing, and everyone was stunned. "I might be able to tame a few snow wolves and let them replace the bloody dragon horse." The red-robed old man and the middle-aged man looked at Lin Xian in surprise, not believing him. Although inscription masters had strong soul power, they were not beast tamers. Without special techniques, they couldn't tame demonic beasts.